Right, meeting call to order at 6:30. Great, okay. Let's see. Simon Weiser, Gina Argento,
Here.
Paul Kelterborn,
I'm here.
William Klagsbald, William Klagsbald. See, your mic is open. I'm gonna count you. Sorry.
Are you on camera? Yeah. Oh shit.
Mario Domrick,
I'm here.
William Vega,
Yo.
Rowan Breitner,
Hi, I'm here.
Kevin Costa,
Not on actually. Video. I don't want to be on video.
Kevin Costa, no. Aaron Drinkwater,
Here.
Bill Goldstein, Karen Nieves, Arika Gould.
Are you on mute?
Yeah, okay. All right, that is a quorum. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the CB1 Transportation Committee for March 23rd, 2023. I'll just start by welcoming and congratulating our new district manager, who is dutifully staffing the boards there at the community board office. Thank you, Joanna Pilgrim. And you're welcome. I know you're going to do great. With that, we can jump into agenda item number 1, the street co-naming request for Penn Street between Bedford and Wythe Avenues in honor of the former community board first vice chair, Rabbi Joseph Weber. This was requested by Councilman Ressler's office on behalf of Yossi Grunwald. Is anyone from Councilman Ressler or, oh, there's Mariana. Hi, Mariana. Is Mr. Grunwald here?
He said he would try to join, but I don't know if he did. But I'm happy to speak in support.
Okay.
Unless anyone else would like to.
Yeah, is there anyone from the community that would like to, that is here for that item in specifically? Okay, hearing none. Mariana, you have the floor.
So hi, everyone. My name is Mariana. I'm Councilmember Ressler's Chief of Staff. And as Eric said, Mr. Grunwald brought to us the idea of renaming, or I should say co-naming a street in honor of Rabbi Weber, who, as you know, many of you probably know better than I do, has a very long history in this community until he passed, and was chair of the community board and brought Head Start to Williamsburg over 40 years ago and was the director since its inception, and ran the youth corps as well. The idea was to rename Penn Street between Bedford and Wythe, which I believe is right in proximity to where that Head Start headquarters was. So that's the idea.
Okay. Rabbi Weber left the board before I joined, but having attended many community board meetings, I do remember him dutifully serving up at the front, and I know he does have a long history in the community and has a deep respect within the community. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, I will ask for it in that case.
I have a question. This isn't on this renaming specifically or co-naming specifically, but
Yes.
does the board have sort of a standard by which to evaluate such proposals?
Well, service to the community, not a rigid standard that I've seen. I've never seen a criteria for like a specific board memo criteria, but it's typically service to the community, roots in the community, some overwhelming presence that warrants the co-naming. It comes from the councilman's or councilperson's office to the community board for approval, and then the councilman, or in this case, councilman or councilperson, brings it to the city council sometime in the spring, and it's voted and then given to the DOT to implement.
That's helpful. Thanks. I was just curious.
Yeah, sure. I think we've had a lot of co-namings lately, so I think that's an appropriate question. But I think in all the cases, there was either, a deep connection to the community, whether a long time ago or recent. And I think we, made our judgments based on that. So.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Like a very, good one, for sure.
Simon, is that you? Simon Weiser? Am I seeing a 917 number that might be a Weiser? No. Okay. All right. In that case, would anyone like to make a motion? William, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. You're not muted, but I can't hear you.
I'll make the motion, Eric. It's Paul.
Okay. Okay, Paul. Thank you.
William Vega seconds.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, unanimously passed. So, okay. So, thank you, Mariana, for bringing this to us. Please let Mr. Grunwald know the result of tonight's committee meeting. I believe the next the full board meeting is April 11th, Tuesday.
What was just voted on? Was for in regards to what?
I'm sorry. Street co-naming, but you're not.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, but for members of the public, you need to be recognized. So there's a little raise your hand feature, and when it's in order to recognize the public, I will do so. Thank you. What was I saying? Okay. Anyway, so the full board meeting will be the 11th, and we'll vote. The board will vote on approval then, hopefully in time to get it to the city council for action sometime this summer. Right. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mariana. Okay, moving right along. Berry Street, Open Street. This is the follow-up design proposal to the last November meeting. And I believe I had initially Emily Weinhoff and Jessica Kronstein, but I believe it's going to be David. Kyle.
D and Kyle.
D and Kyle. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So I'll turn it over to Kyle and for the presentation. And just a note, I should have mentioned this at the outset. So, we've had Berry Street before us. I want to say at least 5 times now. I think that's right. This is we've fielded a lot of public comment on it. We do have speakers that did sign up. I will be recognizing speakers from the public following specific questions from the committee. Comments from the public will be limited to 1 minute, and this is not to say that everyone will get a chance to speak. The time now is 6:40, and we will hear this item no later than until no later than 7:40. Okay, so with that, I give it to Kyle.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Gorman from the city's Department of Transportation. And Eric, I think we've probably been back here many more times than 5 times over the last 3 years to talk about the Barry Open Street. But nonetheless, we are excited to be here tonight to continue the conversation about the evolution of this open street. Really a tremendous amount of work has really gone into this particular proposal that we're going to go into tonight, not only by the city's Department of Transportation, but all of our partners, community-based organizations, and members of the public at large that have really contributed in a big way to the success of this particular open street. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right into the presentation. I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Dee Nelson, who's going to be going through the second half of the presentation, and I'll hand it over to him then. All right, so like I said, we're here to give you a quick update on the North Brooklyn Open Streets for Community Board 1. Just to do a little bit of level setting and kind of giving a quick program update as well as a specific update to the Open Streets in North Brooklyn. Open Streets, as many of you know, launched as an emergency response program at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, to originally facilitate social distancing, economic recovery, more opportunities for open space and pedestrians and cyclists. And the original intent with the program is that the local NYPD precincts would manage it, and given sort of city resources and capacity at the time, the day-to-day management actually shifted to our community partner, the North Brooklyn Open Streets Community Coalition. Thanks to a tremendous amount of advocacy for open streets, it actually became a permanent program due to legislation passed in 2021. That was Local Law 55. That was signed into law by the previous mayor, Mayor de Blasio, and it is now a permanent program here in New York City. We actually just released the permanent rules for the program that just further codifies the Open Streets program as a part of the wider New York City ecosystem. And as a part of that legislation, which actually brings us as to why we're here tonight, we are required to evaluate existing and successful open streets and really try to determine what is possible in terms of an evolution from the very tactical, more simple toolkit open street that's been happening on the corridors, and see what is possible taking a look at the wider DOT public realm and traffic calming toolkit. So everything from pedestrian plazas to shared streets, street seats, opportunities for street furniture, bike parking, planters, greenery, and so much more are now baked in to the permanent program for open streets. So that's why we're here tonight and have been here before and talking with everyone about a design proposal for the open streets in North Brooklyn. Also, thanks to an incredible investment in the Open Streets program by the mayor and the city council, we have a relatively large contract with the Horticultural Society of New York, who actually provides the day-to-day management and operations of a select number of open streets across the city, including Barry Street. So they're setting up the barriers and taking them down on a daily basis, sweeping, cleaning, tending to any horticulture elements throughout the corridor, being our eyes in the street and providing technical assistance, community outreach opportunities, and so much more. And that support, thanks to that really incredible investment, is going to continue for years to come on open streets across the city. And like I mentioned, we've been doing a lot of outreach, not only here at the community board, but boots on the ground, talking to folks door to door all across these open streets to get a better idea as to how folks want to see these corridors used in the future, what is working, what is not working, what's possible, issues, opportunities, and so much more. So there's been a slew of community surveys, workshops, and other things that I'm going to highlight later on in the presentation. And that's been supplemented by a series of events and different types of programming that DOT has been able to coordinate, as well as our community partners on the ground. And that's been regularly happening for nearly 2 years now. So sort of just to sort of continue the narrative about the successes and opportunities that have come to be with Open Streets, you know, at the sort of foundation of the program, we're seeing more public space for walking, biking, and programming, and just generally promoting alternative modes rather than vehicles on open streets. We're also supporting schools. A number of schools across the city participate in the Open Streets program for outdoor learning, outdoor recreation, safer pickup and drop-off operations, and this also includes the Barry Open Street, where PS84 has been a regular user of the Open Street to supplement the space they need while the playground is under construction. There's also a tremendous amount of social benefits that come from Open Streets. I cannot really tell you or underscore the incredible community building exercise and undertaking that Open Streets has been. Open Streets really brought people together in a really dark time in our city's history. And these people not only came together to, of course, create more open space, but create different types of mutual aid organizations and other support systems to really support the community when other types of resources were not available. So at the core of Open Streets really is partnership, not only with you know, public-private partnerships, but also sort of community building partnerships at the grassroots level. We also wanted to make sure that Open Streets remain vibrant places to promote arts and culture and programming and other types of creative activations on the street. One of the more popular events that we're able to bring to the Open Street was a performance by the Bindlestiff Family Circus. They bring what they call the Flatbed Follies to a number of our open streets, including Barry, and give a performance where hundreds of families, kids, and other types of individuals were able to enjoy a really excellent performance by the Bindlestiff Family Circus. We were also able to do another circus performance as well at Banker's Anchor at North 15th Street, in addition to the one pictured here at Barry Street. An incredible facet also of the Open Streets are the tremendous amount of dog-oriented folks and users that we are seeing on Open Streets. A number of our partners have hosted events to promote dog businesses, dog organizations, and just owning dogs generally. And obviously, people love to also walk their dogs on Open Streets. So another exciting layer to Open Streets. So now I'm going to just briefly go over all of the outreach that we've been able to really undertake over these last few years, which has been used to really inform the proposal that Dee is going to go into next. So to briefly summarize all of our outreach efforts to date, as I mentioned, we've been a sort of recurring regular character, I like to say, here at Community Board 1 on the Transportation Committee, appearing a number of times in 2020, 2021, 2022, and of course now here in 2023. At the sort of more pandemic part of the height of the pandemic, I should say, really back in 2020, we did actually start to do community outreach. That's when it formally launched related to this particular Open Street. We first launched a feedback survey that was promoted online, as well as surveys and opportunities to do the survey in person on street. And we heard from over 2,000 individuals across the community, and I'll highlight the results of that in just a few seconds. We've also been able to do a series of both virtual and in-person design workshops, building on the feedback that was offered in the survey and other types of outreach that we've been able to do. So the first of the workshops were virtually held back in February 2021, two of which were held via Zoom. And then we have held 3 in-person workshops, the first being back in May 2022, and then 2 recently, just a few weeks ago, the first on January 31st and March 7th, where we presented the full design proposal to the community to get their feedback. The intent of the workshop on March 7th was targeted to Spanish-only speaking individuals, and we had translators and interpreters and translated materials, I should say, for that workshop. We've also been doing a lot of, like I said, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to businesses and other types of merchants along these open streets, doing different types of merchant surveys to better understand, you know, what are their thoughts on open streets, what are their delivery needs, loading, pickups, drop-offs, what are their waste hauling needs, to better understand all of that information to make more informed decisions about how best to design the curb. So in addition to the survey, we've also been doing a lot of just individual meetings with partners, whether it be a site visits or on Zoom, to talk through the project proposal, go over any nuanced details to make sure that loading docks are still accessible, loading zones are going to be there, working to make sure that deliveristas and other type of delivery infrastructure is also supported, and just ensuring that commerce continues in an efficient way on OpenStreets. And then in addition to all of that, like I said, we've been doing other types of stakeholder engagement, whether that be surveying folks on the streets, flyering, going door to door, making sure that we're doing interagency coordination with the fire department, NYPD, other agencies like the Mayor's Office of Film and Media, and so on. And that has been on a continuous basis since 2020. So like I said, I wanted to just briefly highlight all of the feedback that we heard in these workshops, which I said is being used and informs the design proposal. So we heard from over 2,000 individuals on the survey that was hosted in 2021. Pedestrians really are the kings and queens, I should say, of our streets here in New York City. Over 80% of people indicate that they are using OpenStreets while walking. This is a daily regular fixture that people have incorporated in their day-to-day lives, with over 3/4 of individuals saying that they're visiting these OpenStreets on a nearly daily or several times a week basis. And only 1/4 of individuals indicated that they're actually using this OpenStreet to drive, park, or get some local access. On the survey, we asked folks the closest intersection to where they live, and 93% of folks who took the survey indicated that they did indeed live here in Community Board 1, and a full 40% lived on some of the existing OpenStreets that were in place back in 2021. So in order to build on some of the feedback that we got in the surveys, we held 2 virtual workshops on Zoom and identified just a number of issues and opportunities related to the tactical OpenStreet and a better understanding of how folks wanted to see these corridors used in the future. People highlighted how this has become an amazing amenity and a community hub for people during the pandemic. The local traffic requirements on the new OpenStreet makes it quieter and safer for pedestrians and cyclists. But, the tactical OpenStreet had its limitations. There needs to be better signage, clarity of access, and different types of infrastructure to better achieve the outcomes that we want to, have OpenStreets result in. And of course, as is the case even before the pandemic, the reported instances of dangerous driving and other general traffic safety concerns that people would like us to consider. Then back in May 2022, we started to present some high-level design concepts to the public for everyone's feedback. There was a big desire to codify a solution that allows for two-way cycling as well as bike and pedestrian priority, and making sure that we have strong connections between existing green spaces.
Excuse me, can someone, the 3 people that have it muted, I can hardly hear what Kyle is saying. Please mute yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, William. So continuing on, some of the other items that people asked for is more dedicated loading and delivery space, keeping the local corridor facets and reducing as much through traffic as possible, and a lot of excitement with thinking beyond the barrier and other opportunities for new street furniture and public realm amenities. And then as some of the folks who are on the call tonight know, who got a chance to visit us at the workshops that we held back in March and January, people really responded positively to the OpenStreet proposal that we presented to the community. Some of the areas for improvement that the community flagged for us is requests for more street furniture, which could come as bike corrals, planters, seating, and granite blocks, other mid-block traffic calming elements, alternatives to metal barriers. People, we are trying to evolve and ease away from them, but we don't have the perfect solution just yet. There's,
I'm sorry, Kyle. 718-8 whatever 80. Please mute yourself on the phone.
We also have Esther Bout.
Yeah, or Joanna, if you could just mute everybody except Kyle and D, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Kyle. Please continue.
Thank you, Eric. And then, like I said, there was also, like I said, support for two-way cycling and more pedestrian-oriented infrastructure, and a desire to see further treatments at the intersection or where cross streets are crossing over the Barry open street. And with that, I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand it over to Dee, who's going to walk us through the remainder of this proposal.
Sorry, and I just got. It's not letting me share my screen. 1 second. Sorry, it's making me close to share.
It's Simon.
I'll just share my screen and let's just walk through that way.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, was that you, Simon? Did you just say something? Did I just
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
you?
it's me. 812 is my number. Okay.
718?
So
I can only
812-7980.
Yeah, okay. Can you mute?
7980. That's yeah, I'm muting. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Dee. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry about that technical issue. Barry is a Safe Streets for Senior priority area. So a big hallmark of the design that we've presented in the past, and are showing the tweaks to it based off of that workshop feedback. And the last time we presented to CB1, probably the number one priority of this design overall is pedestrian priority, pedestrian safety. And then, as Kyle stated, working through, those hiccups with when we had to rapidly deploy open streets and are now trying to mature the program post-pandemic. You can go to the next slide, Kyle. So we have a sensor one of the sensors that we're piloting for data collection as New York City DOT. And so this actually tracks the path of different roadway users as they cross through the intersection. This is at North 6th and Barry. And so the diagram on the left shows pedestrian paths through the intersection. You can see it's very heavy on the cross street. On the far side of the intersection, it's partially not captured by the sensor. That's why it has sort of a sharp V shape. But you can see on the other leg that, the trips along North 6th tend to be along the crosswalk. But on Barry, where we have the open street operations, you see not only more pedestrian trips, but a pretty even split between using the roadway and using the sidewalk, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to strengthen this program, is that we've seen this increase in pedestrian usage, and that's really can only be accommodated in the roadbed. The sidewalks would be insufficient. The only reason for the gap in there is the barrier, right? Otherwise, all the way through the intersection would be full. And then on the right, you can see the path of bicyclists for the most part. And the important thing there is about 20% of the trips have been by bikes going southbound, which is technically allowed, and we're formalizing here. But one of the issues, again, design-wise, with having to deploy the open street rapidly when we were in the pandemic, is that the bike lane being on the left side of the roadway and allowing two-way cycling creates a degree of confusion and poor communication in terms of what's on the ground and what users are trying to do in terms of interpreting that and navigating the space. So, this allows, our design proposal allows cyclists to stay to the right predominantly, and clarifies a lot of that confusion that can lead to conflicts and just disagreement about how to navigate the space, because we were dealing with old markings and new operations. And so our design proposal brings the design up to the actual intended and legal use of the space. So as we move away from such a strong reliance on the barricades as the way to limit access for just local access onto each block, without completely removing the barricades in the immediacy. The way that we're accomplishing this is what the agency did a lot of last year and the year prior for our Bike Boulevards program, which is intermittent one-way reversals, just to prevent traffic from building up as those tributaries of cross streets begin to like feed the river of Barry. The traffic volumes pick up block by block. And by having, intermittent one-way reversals, you prevent that buildup of through traffic from being able to occur while still maintaining everybody having convenient access to the blocks. And we are pushing for always having at least 2 blocks in the reversal so that there's a discouraging factor to scofflaws and people just out of convenience trying to, trick it through one block. So our previous proposal that we'd shown to CB1 had some one block sections in there. And that's one difference to highlight from the last time we presented, is that we have consolidated the reversals into 3 sets of 2 block reversals. And one of the other reasons why we changed this is some of the complaints we heard about diversion. So, this actually limits the amount of diversions, the amount of driving around compared to what we had previously shown. So this allows for more direct paths for drivers while still getting the safety and traffic volume benefits we need for the open street. And enhancing pedestrian safety throughout the whole corridor, making Barry all the way from North 12th to Broadway a 2-way cycling facility. And we'll get into some details at a site-specific level, but again, we've presented before those neighborhood loading zones as a solution for truck and freight access for the corridor, as well as passenger pickup and drop off, and also keeping the open street open for people to enjoy it, because we've previously had an issue with a lot of box trucks when making deliveries, parking in the middle of the intersection and limiting access. Traffic calming elements throughout the whole corridor, and then some additional benefits sort of off the Barry corridor to strengthen the connections to Domino and McCarran Parks. And then the Bankers Anchor Plaza closing one leg of North 15th. Go ahead, Kyle. So again, just highlighting some of the changes from the last time we presented. They're all very minor, but we tweaked the geometry of the gateway treatments at the ends of the block on Broadway. There's a more robust rubber speed bump that'll be between the bike gateways and the receiving travel lane for a little bit more safety for the contraflow cyclists, while still not being a trip hazard or an impediment to pedestrians. We are sort of strengthening the relationship with the neighborhood loading zones and the pedestrian priority by actually putting up signs that are telling box trucks basically to use the loading zones and for only smaller vehicles to enter onto Barry. And that's great because with people walking and biking and enjoying the space, larger vehicles aren't as compatible anymore. So we're doing it with regulatory signage instead of such a ham-fisted physical approach, because we want to make sure that there's no obstacle obstruction at all for emergency and public safety response. So FDNY can still turn into the blocks. So we'll get into that at a site-specific level, adding what's essentially a painted short-term in-house way of treating intersections as raised intersections as speed tables to try to call attention mainly to two conditions on the corridor. One that we heard a lot, that South 6th and North 1st doesn't have crosswalks across Berry. And then also that the traffic reversals will need to have attention called to them. So when people are especially getting used to this as a new operation on the corridor. And then at the ends of the corridor, so I'll highlight all of those as we go through block by block. And then these tweaks of sort of simplifying the design and making the changes that we heard in both the workshops and from our last CB presentation actually ended up adding 2 more parking spaces per block from the previous proposal. So we've added parking while still maintaining, and if anything, increasing the amount of pedestrian priority and cyclist safety. So starting through the corridor, you can see that the first reversal goes from South 6th to Broadway. The left turn bay on Broadway gets replaced with a pedestrian refuge island because there would no longer be a left turn from eastbound Broadway onto the corridor. The pinkish coral color would be those painted intersection treatments, just calling attention to South 6th, which doesn't have crosswalks across it. South 5th, where traffic flow is reversed. So approaching on South 5th, you could take a right or a left, but there's no traffic entering into the intersection from Berry. So we've targeted using this treatment at places where we really want to call attention that there's something unusual happening, making sure nobody approaches it and just thinks it's Berry as usual. You can advance, go. No. So I guess jumping into a cross section to just show some of the details of the gateway treatments. For the first 40 feet of the street on either side, we'll have painted pedestrian space marked with the little plastic posts, the flexible delineators in DOT jargon. On each side of the intersection, one will have bike parking and the other one will have landscaping in the raised planters and granite blocks to provide some seating and some beauty to the corridor. And then we'll have that bicycle gateway treatment for the contraflow approach. So it's very clear to everyone that bikes are moving in 2 directions. At the point where, everyone needs to interact at the intersection, we have a designated spot where we're saying, hey, cyclists, this is where you're expected to be. And we'll put a rubber speed hump between where the motor vehicles will be turning into the street and where bikes will be waiting. Just to sort of formalize things only at the intersection while allowing the majority of the street to sort of operate socially, where everyone can tell, there's 2 people riding abreast or there's a family with small kids walking a dog. You move out of the way just as you do on any sidewalk based off of the social reality of the street. So advancing up the corridor, the whole street will be signed as a 5-mile-per-hour corridor. Again, 24 hours a day, vehicles are allowed to enter the street. It's just only for local access, to park on your block, to pick somebody up who has, mobility issues and you really need to pull right up and double park in front of the door. All of that's still allowed. What we're just trying to do here is discourage through traffic, people using Berry to go longer distances. And keeping speed slow and sort of, again, at a social level, think how a parking lot works, right? You see somebody pushing with a cart, you just get out of the way. That's what we're aiming for because the speeds are lower. The speed hump that's on South 1st after the street's repaved, which is our goal. It's scheduled to be repaved so that we have a nice smooth surface that looks really nice for the neighborhood. To put down the new markings, we wouldn't be replacing that speed hump because we have other traffic calming devices that'll keep the street slower than the speed hump's designed. And you can see again this like repeating pattern of the gateway treatment. At Grand Street, there's a new traffic signal that will be coordinating with the construction at PS 84 and able to get in otherwise. And we've really taken an opportunity with this project to make sure that that traffic signal doesn't get delayed any longer than it already has been due to construction at the school. And we've reversed this Grand to Metropolitan section as the next reversal on the corridor because it's the steepest part of Barry and had some of the highest speeds as a result. And so by making it uphill, we make sure that it's safe for the people walking in the street, especially because it's so close to the school, and been in close communication with them about the plan. Jump to the next. And then, so highlighting one changes is that we wanted to make sure some of the diversions in order to get to and from the parking garage between North First and North Third was one of the things we heard complaints about. And when we went back in response to those and really looked at the diversions from certain directions, we did sort of see some opportunities for improvement. And so that's when we did the consolidated reversal from North 7th to North 5th. So there's better traffic flow. We're not putting more trips onto the network, a lot more turns, and improving the safety on Barry, but adding turns on other streets that could create pedestrian safety problems there. And so, again, like at North 5th, there it'll be two-way for cyclists, but it'll be in and in for motor vehicles, both northbound and southbound, having to turn on to North 5th. So really, again, using this intersection color treatment so that everybody's aware, nobody could be absent-minded. There'll also be the usual host of signs saying do not enter and that you have to turn throughout the corridor. And then we have been in close communication with all the commercial partners that have more unique freight and delivery needs, like Partners, which sometimes needs to receive large deliveries in their loading dock. And so, I've specifically accommodated them in the design. Is just one example of how, we've really tried to strive to make sure that throughout the corridor, we're maintaining all the site-specific needs and that we're not just coming in and saying, this is what Barry is now. There's a lot of detail work to make sure that this is a functional street. Go ahead, Kyle. Okay, so on the northernmost part of the section, calling out here again how the neighborhood loading zones are placed on essentially the far side of every block. So when a truck approaches Barry, it'll be very clear for them that they'll just pull ahead, or a regular for hire vehicle that doesn't need to specifically access an individual property, like if somebody has mobility needs, it'll be very clear that there's a designated space that they can pull right ahead into and not have to block the intersection. Again, for smaller vehicles, it's great. You can turn onto Barry as normal. What we're really trying to prevent are those like larger box trucks, and giving them a designated space. The blocks are only 200 feet long on Barry, so nobody is more than 100 feet from each business. And the realities of delivery in New York City, even when you're double parking on a corridor, you're often that far away to begin with. So by creating a designated space, we think that this is actually a benefit to everyone. And then there's a new stop sign installed on 10th Street, which we've coordinated along with this project. So just want to call attention to that. And then the corridor, the open street will end at North 12th. But if you look closely, we're still trying to create a larger entrance into the park there, where previously the crosswalk had only been that's where there's the double loaded sidewalk. It's like sidewalk landscaping sidewalk in front of the tennis courts. we've widened that crosswalk at both Barry and at Bedford to really make sure that there's a nice gateway to McCarran. And then continuing up there, because we want this to function as, I should have mentioned, last year as part of this project, when it got delayed, we moved forward because Kent Avenue was repaved with adding a new crossing at Grand Street into Domino Park. I'm sure most people here are aware of how unpleasant that crossing was. And so this project, one big part was, again, thinking about these connections to the park, because Barry sort of conveniently connects the two major parks in North Brooklyn, or in Northern Williamsburg, the north side and the south side. And so additionally here, we're pursuing adding new crossings at the pathway that runs between the tennis courts and the Automotive High School to that mid-block entrance along the park and tying it into North 14th Street. So an additional set of new crossings because there's about 1,400 feet on both streets where there's no marked crossing point. And especially that one on Bedford mid-block is really high volume on the weekends. There's just tons of people crossing there. So since we're going to be creating even more pedestrian demand, we really want to make sure that we're adding safety there. And then the new plaza, by closing 15th Street, there's really no reason to turn. It's a harder turn to make. It doesn't really take you anywhere that Banker Street doesn't take you. We've been able to partner with Broadway Stages and the church, communicating with them about their needs, and have created a really nice large plaza there, new crossings, and then an extension where Brooklyn Brewery is working on their new site on the far side of that intersection. So really creating a lot of new pedestrian space, especially as that intersection is set to change with a lot of new development and bring a lot more people there. Adding those new crossings, which really wouldn't work just due to the angles and the fact that we had to make sure that larger trucks, because this is in the IBZ, are still able to make turns. Without creating these new pedestrian spaces, it would have been very hard to create safe crossings. And then, along with that, switching the bike lane that runs from North 12th to Lorimer from a left side bike lane to a right side bike lane, which will remove a handful of intersection conflicts at like North 13th, North 14th, et cetera. So that's a real benefit as well. So just some ideas of what the Bankers Anchor Plaza will look like. It's where we put the epoxy gravel surface down, where we sort of make the asphalt appear more like a landscaping material. And we'll be adding granite blocks, planters, movable seating that can be put away at night, and have a very nice programmable space. This, as many people know, is on North 5th, so a very similar concept where we've closed a redundant leg of an intersection in front of a church in the neighborhood. So just going over next steps, everyone please participate in Car Free Earth Day on the 22nd of next month. We'll be starting repaving sometime in May. The repaving schedule is very weather dependent, so it's hard to have a set date quite yet, but it's scheduled to begin in May. We'll repave from South 4th all the way to North 12th. While that repaving work is happening, we'll get the signal installed at Grand at the school. That way, we're putting fresh asphalt over all the underground utility work that has to happen. And then as soon as the repaving is complete, we'll begin implementation with the markings and the signage changes. And then, as always with our SIP projects, the agency will be making sure to do evaluation and receive public feedback so that we can ongoingly tweak the design and the operations of the space to be responsive to any issues that might arise. And then again, as with any of our in-house projects, we have a limited set of materials and tools that we can do when we're just implementing quickly as the city itself. But we'll begin the work of envisioning the long-term future of Barry in a capital build-out. So thank you. And with that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll turn it back to you, Eric. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dee and Carl. So when we received the preview this morning on this item, at the November meeting, the direction changes were taken out, and I see that they're back now. And I know that you've been in touch with Partners Coffee, but I'm wondering, do they understand that the direction change is back in? First of all, I know they said somebody had responded to them that the truck study showed that they could make the turns, but I don't know. I'm dubious, first of all, and then second of all, from the design on the preview, it looks like you put the bike lanes on their loading zone side of the street, and they've already been having conflicts with cyclists from the beginning. And so I'm just wondering what the logic was to put it on the east side of the street with the loading zone. And I just want to make sure that the bulb outs that are at the corners of North 6th and North 7th, those are paint treatments, right? Those are not raised bulb outs.
Correct. Yep.
Correct.
But Eric, just a clarifying question. So I just double checked our November presentation, and everything related to the reversals was still there, including on the block where Partners was. So we haven't ever changed that. And we did say that there were potentially some future tweaks that would come when we spoke in November, but we didn't talk about changing the reversal there. And I'll let Dee answer some of the more technical side of things, but Partners has signed off on this proposal. We've gone back and forth with them in addition to doing a site visit. So we are certain that they're aware.
A site visit since the one that we did, Kyle? The one that I was at?
No, so that was the site visit that we did, and then we did a handful of Zoom meetings and as well as some email correspondence as well.
With Partners?
With Partners.
Zoom meetings with Partners since that walkthrough?
Correct.
Right. So they are aware that this direction change is still happening.
Yep. I mean, they put in the email that this proposal poses no issues for their operations.
Okay. So I'll just, as you go forward, I'll just, continue. I hope that you'll continue that conversation. If any problems arise, I'm still concerned that the bike lanes are on that loading zone side of the street, but I realize it's a large corridor, and it's hard to accommodate one business along that entire corridor, but it is about cyclist safety. So just keep that in mind. And then I just want to make sure that no planters or blocks or anything go on the corners of North 6th or North 7th that are going to make it difficult for those trucks to make that turn. And then up at Banker's Anchor, so that looks all fine. I know that you've reached out. Well, you've said that you reached out to Broadway Stages, and I haven't heard anything from Gina, who's on the call, or Tony with concerns about that. We went through this a while back, so I know that we talked to the church and we did everything right. And I love Banker's Anchor, so let me just state that for the record. But I am a little concerned, and I was talking to Karen Nieves earlier today, that on the Banker turn onto North 15th, when the brewery gets happening on that in full swing on that triangle, and then the smoked fish if they're bringing in trucks, like that triangle, that painted triangle. Now the map is not the territory, so maybe it's not as large as it looks on the diagram, but it looks fairly substantial. And I just want to make sure that it's going to be able to accommodate. Now I think that angle is probably about, maybe like 160 to make that left turn onto 15th off Banker. But I just want to make sure that that trucks are going to be able to make that without, any pedestrian conflicts or anything like that.
So Dia weigh in on that piece, but Broadway Stages, the Seafood Company, and Brooklyn Brewery have also independently, we've met with them to discuss this proposal.
Yeah, and I'll say for the design at Partners, the bulb outs at 6th and 7th are a slightly different shape, a more generous shape for the turn than along the rest of the corridor for that reason. So we'll still be able to put items in there, because we've actually shrunk the footprint of them to accommodate Partners. And they've seen detailed modeling for a vehicle as large as they say they would ever get deliveries. And then same thing for at Banker's Anchor. We've modeled that turn generously for tractor trailers to still be able to make it. And that's the appearance that it seems almost unbelievable that would be the case is really benefited or created by creating these large ped spaces. But you pretty much said it. It's a pretty slight angle of the turn. So by filling in as much space as we could with ped space while still preserving that tractor trailer movement, we've created a space that really looks pedestrian inviting while still accommodating slow speed, safe truck turns.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Committee, I see Kevin, you had your hand up. I can't see hands because I'm doing 3 things at once here, but Kevin Costa.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Dee. Thanks, Kyle, for being here for the millionth time. As you guys have mentioned, you've done quite a bit of outreach, workshops, coming to the transportation community over the last couple of years, and while it's been really great to really provide feedback, I think that the time has come to truly implement changes on this street. We've been waiting for far too long. We've been essentially waiting since the open street began in 2020 to have any sort of improvements in the space. So I really want to, drive home the point that implementation is key and it needs to happen as soon as possible. So I saw that in the presentation, it said, summer/fall implementation, and there were a couple of bullet points under that, but I hope that means early summer. I hope that means as soon as the repaving is done, because that is absolutely critical at this point. We've been waiting for 3 years, and the time to act is now. And I appreciate the fact that you've integrated so much of the community's feedback, but there's an overwhelming majority of the community that is saying, we love open streets. We want it to happen. We want them to be even better, to be enhanced, and nothing has happened. We're still at the exact same place that we were 3 years ago. So I'll put a pin in that for now. I did want to mention a couple of things that I think are really great about the proposal, and then also suggest a couple of things to improve upon. I think that it's really great that the signal on Grand and Berry was implemented, that there's some epoxy gravel in certain intersections, the speed humps all look great, and the traffic reversals. I think that those are all really strong elements of this proposal. I do think that the contraflow bike lane, I love the contraflow bike lane, but I would like to see all of it be painted green, not just the chevrons in the middle of the street space. And And I think that there, is a really big element that is missing here, which is like the mid-block crossings, especially for the more pedestrian heavy streets. There's a number of them that could really benefit from a mid-block intersection. So that's just like kind of my 2 cents, just to get the conversation flowing. I know that there are lots of community members who are on this call tonight that have a lot more to add and can probably articulate it 10 times better than I can. So I'm looking forward to hearing all their thoughts. But overall, we need to get this done. We need it to start earlier than later. And we've been talking to you guys for a really, really long time. Kyle, I know you're tired of listening to us time and time and time again. So please, I can't advocate more strongly for implementation to happen as soon as possible. June at the latest. But
Thank you, Kevin.
All's in your court. Thank you.
So Eric, you have board members, myself and Paul and Branham as committee members with their hands raised.
Thank you, William. DOT, any quick response?
I would just say that, this is not the end all be all. Dee mentioned it at the end of the presentation that, we are committed to making any tweaks and additions as needed and then continuing to improve upon this proposal. And we are also eager to get this on the ground. I would love to see it implemented, and it will be implemented this year. We're really confident to say that, followed by a huge repaving project. So Dee and I and the rest of the public space team will surely get it in the ground as soon as we physically can.
Great, thank you. Paul Kelterborn?
Sorry, Eric, one more question. I know that you had put like a hard stop for 7:40, but given that the presentation was so long, is there any more time that we can spend on this? I'll leave that to your discretion, but I really think that 7:40 would be a real injustice to most of the people on this call.
Yeah, I didn't expect the presentation to be as long as it was. So I'll be a little liberal. I won't say how liberal, but we are probably going to move on at 8 for sure. Anyway, thank you, Kevin. Paul Kelterborn?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thanks everyone. I agree with all of Kevin's comments, and especially appreciate the street directional changes. I think those will really help kind of like change the dynamic between people trying to use the open street and cars. Two things I wanted to mention, from my experience with Cooper Park and the Sharon open street, the neighborhood loading zones are great. I think that the way they're implemented, at least around Cooper with just a small sign, doesn't make them super visible. And I think, sort of like adherence to them as loading zones has been a little bit spotty. And if there's a way to do something to the pavement or like really highlight them as for that purpose, I think that would like really go a long way. And then the second comment is just also, about the mid-block sort of intervention. I know they're short blocks, so maybe, you don't think there's as much of a need to do something like hugs, but, if there's an opportunity to add any street furniture or something, especially if you're trying to make it safer for seniors, as you said in one of the slides, having places to sit, rest, socialize, those kinds of things. And especially since you also mentioned that you found ways to add additional two parking spaces per block, it seems like maybe you could take at least some of those and put some kind of like street furniture hug type thing to make it more of a place, like do more placemaking and less of just a place to kind of like pass through. So I'll leave it there. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry, 1 second. Block treatments. Got it. Okay. Bronwyn?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And thanks to Kyle and Dee for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, especially the whole presentation, but like the early end of the presentation of how much outreach you have done. I've been at many of those meetings and many of those workshops. There's been so much opportunity for feedback. I said it in, I guess it was November, when you announced that there would be another community public in-person feedback session in January, like, let's just get this done. I'm happy to see how much of the community feedback you have integrated into the revisions. I'm happy to see, I don't think those mid-block paintings for the bicycle lane indications were there in an earlier iteration. And I also support the sort of continuous green paint on the street. I also wonder, I think the traffic reversal is a really important part of this proposal, and I support that. I think reversing for the 2 blocks as you've done is smart to extend the distance for cars to travel in that one direction, whichever direction it might be. And I think what that does, as you know, is it sort of prevents the conflict that happens for cars driving down the street continuously from end to end of Barry. What I find for me with the bike merged with pedestrians in the open street, irrespective of the cars, right? To me right now, there's conflict between car, pedestrian, and bike on any given block. And so reversing the travel direction helps, I think, in the conflict between car and bike pedestrian. But I also still feel that there's an opportunity for conflict between pedestrian and cyclist in the way that it's designed now, especially with the green painting in each direction. So that it's unclear where pedestrians are really supposed to be by the marking. So I would advocate in the next iteration of this, which I think, of course, should not hold up the implementation of any of this. I think we should go. But some consideration, like, I don't know if it's more like what's happening under Meeker, where you have a clustered bike lane in 2 directions and then a clustered pedestrian zone on the other side. But some way of sort of using the street design to make it clear where pedestrians are meant to be and where bicyclists are supposed to be. I also am fully in support of the idea of mid-block implementation with bulb outs or hugs and seating, plaza space, boulders, plantings, things like that to encourage pedestrian use and pedestrian lingering in the street, because it's wonderful for walking and biking, but it's also a great destination for sitting. And I'm so happy that you're putting a crosswalk at North 14th by the park. I'm all over this area with my kids on bikes and as pedestrians all the time. And that is like such a crazy intersection right there by Automotive High School. So thank you for putting that in. I would love to see a stop sign there as well at that crosswalk to make it even easier to cross that long block, especially on Bedford. So that's it for me. Thank you. And question. So you said this in entirety, you expect this will be implemented 2023? The repaving and the whole SIP.
That is the expectation, yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwyn. William?
Thank you. I'll be very quick so the public can have their moments. I believe, just like all of my other board members or committee members, let's go. And it's really smart to reverse traffic. I really think that's the smartest move. So I yield the rest of my time. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, William. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I see other board members that are not on the committee. I'm going to recognize them. Then I'm going to hear a statement from Senator Gonzalez's office. And then we'll do 1 minute from the public, just so folks know where we're at. And I'll try to get as many of you in as we can, but we got a lot today. So anyway, thank you for that. Katie Horowitz.
Thank you, Eric. I won't take much time either. I just wanted to share that, I think that this plan also really exemplifies kind of the trajectory of open streets, right? Where in like year one, there, it was sort of chaotic, and then there was like that they brought the Horticultural Society in to help with management, and now we're kind of really seeing the fuller realization of the concept of this project, which is really exciting. I know a lot of people are going to have comments about Barry, so I also just wanted to get in some comments about Banker's Anchor, which is part of this. That really is a gem within the Open Streets and Public Plazas network here in North Brooklyn. So I wanted to kind of take a moment to say, like, that's a really big deal to have that move to a 24/7 public plaza for our area. And so, we at the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance, we've been working with DOT and the Open Streets community to really think about how we can activate it, and just wanted to throw it out to the community as well. If you have ideas about how to really make that space into an active community space, always feel free to reach out to us. And with that, I yield my time.
Thanks, Katie.
Eric Miranda
yes.
from Emily Gallagher's office has her hand raised. So
I saw that too. So I don't see any other board members with their hands up. So we're going to move on. And so, sorry, 1 second. Bear with me. Miss Maverick, did I see you? There you are.
Yes, hi, thank you so much.
Hi.
Yes, Marissa Maverick, Director of Community Affairs and Special Projects for State Senator Kristen Gonzalez. The senator wanted me to come on tonight to read a statement of support in terms of some of the community asks of Berry Street. Senator Kristen Gonzalez has been closely following the development of this plan, and our office has participated in community workshop sessions held by DOT and has separately engaged with community leaders regarding the key needs of the neighborhood and the design aspects that are most vital to this project. Senator Gonzalez stands with DOT's community partner, the North Brooklyn Open Streets Community Coalition, in supporting the community asks gathered throughout feedback sessions. The senator urges the DOT to consider the asks consolidated by the coalition and wishes to highlight these key improvements. The implementation of a continuous and clearly marked contraflow bike lane with adequate barriers. The senator understands that the June 2022 proposal put forth by DOT for this project displayed the use of a protective island and double barriers to protect cyclists from potential head-on collisions with vehicles. This design has since been removed from subsequent proposals, and I do understand there were some explanations for that this evening. However, this still leaves cyclists more vulnerable. The creation of mid-block curb extensions on every block throughout the corridor. The application of a shared space color marking across each intersection, which was also originally included in the June 2022 proposal, but has since been removed. And I'm certainly happy to hear about in this presentation this evening about the coordination with PS 84. However, there are certain other considerations that would more effectively meet the school's specific needs, including extending the open street hours to 7 a.m., as I understand there has been some discussion around that, to ensure that students and parents have safe passage. And above all, to back some of the calls that we've already heard this evening, Senator Gonzalez also must stress that the implementation of this plan must go through without further delay, as the community has already waited long enough for this essential design, which will improve health, safety, opportunities, and the well-being of residents, organizations, and businesses. Thank you all very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Maverick. And if you would be so kind as to email that statement to my, I know you have my email because I just talked to you. But please copy the board office on it for transparency, and I'll make it part of the record since that's a lot to summarize in our report. But thank you for coming, and thank the senator. Ms. Miranda Augustine of Assemblywoman Gallagher's office. Did I see your hand up? I thought I did. Miranda Augustine? Going once? There you are.
I'm so sorry. I was having trouble unmuting.
All good.
Yeah,
WebEx is a monster, so. Go.
Thanks so much. I have a less formal statement, but I'll just share. Yeah, we, again, like everyone has said, want to thank DOT for working with community stakeholders, addressing, particular small business needs. Super grateful to all the volunteers, the Hort. But yeah, our main point, our main takeaways, like most have said, just also want to stress that we're super excited to get this started as quickly as possible. Really excited to finally do the work that's been talked about for a long time, to make these, permanent changes that meet the needs, create a safe, sustainable, multimodal street. So, right, expressing support, expressing urgency.
Got
Thanks
it.
so much.
Great. Thanks so much. Short and sweet. I like it. Okay. So, I think, okay, if you've spoken, please take your hands down. And William will tag team on this to try to get in as many voices as possible. But what I need to do first is people that actually signed up to speak through the city platform. I'm going to call on them now. Amanda Colon. Is Amanda Colon in the room? Amanda Colon, going once, going twice. No response. Okay. Susanna, forgive me, Akyuz, A-K-U-Z, A-K-Y-U-Z, Akyuz, Susanna? Susanna Akyuz. Going once.
Hey, Eric, just quick, sorry to interrupt. I think that there are like one or two more electeds that are on the call. Can we recognize them first, if that's okay? I think Councilmember, sorry, I just saw like a negative thumbs down. I think Councilmember Wrestler's office is on, and I'm trying to see who
She
else.
was on, but she dropped out, so I don't see her anymore. I do see Anya.
I do see
is on the call.
Vanessa. I don't know if she's like tuned in at this very second, but I do see Vanessa Nutter on.
Yeah, Eric, it's Anya from Councilmember Gutierrez's office.
Okay, do me a favor. Let me just run through these signed up speakers because there's only 4, and I'm not seeing them in the chat, so or in the attendance. So let me just get through these, and I'll come back to you if that's okay. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we have no comment. I'm fine. I'm just here to listen. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, and I'm sorry, that was Vanessa, and then Anya. Do you have a statement?
Oh no, that was me saying that, Eric.
I'm sorry. I'm all confused here.
All good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the iPad is not
I'm
the
also
best
just
for
here to
WebEx.
listen tonight.
Great, love it. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you both for showing up and reporting back to the representatives. And Kevin, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Okay, back to our lovely list of signed up speakers. Morten Marot. I think I'm saying that, Marott, M-A-R-O-T-T, Morten.
Yeah, I'm more in a listening mode, so you can move on.
Oh, okay, so you're no comment then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the last is Miss Trish Browning. Trish Browning?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Hi, okay, great. Go ahead, please.
Great. I appreciate you sharing the plans with us, and I do think that we're moving in a positive direction, although I do want to say that as a homeowner on Berry Street, just in any resident in general, we have not been consulted. It sounds like many of the merchants and the school have been given priority, but for example, when the school was given access to close Berry completely during school hours, we live directly across the street and we were never contacted. We do have a driveway also, so we are basically blocked off during the day. We've been able to make this work, but it does really affect us as well as some of these other decisions being made. For example, a cab will not drive to our house, or, I've heard many residents say this, they will not drop off or pick up. So for example, I've got surgery next week, so I will have to be dropped off down the corner. So many of these things are actually not being discussed with the residents. So I appreciate people wanting to utilize the space as a fun and safe pedestrian and bike passageway. But I think it's really important to actually communicate with the residents who live here. Thank you very much.
Okay, right on time. Thank you, Ms. Browning. Okay, and since that was our first public comment,
This is Morton, could I actually say something?
yes,
Okay.
you have 1 minute. Please go.
That's fine. I don't need that. But actually, I would second what was just said now here. I also own one of the residents on Berry Street, and granted I have had it rented out during COVID here, but this is the first I'm hearing of this, and I'm kind of wondering what process there has been to put this in some kind of. I'm assuming this is a formal hearing to some extent, but at least what process has this been through to actually get in touch with the legal owners of the residences aside from just the merchants, I guess.
I'll just jump in there. So at DOT, yeah, we do not distinguish between property owners or renters. We talk to all types of people about how best to plan our streets. As I highlighted in the presentation, DOT has done quite a lot of outreach to residents, businesses, institutions, and other types of stakeholders.
But how has the outreach been done? Because I have not received anything.
Well, I'm sorry that you haven't received anything, but it's been brought up at this particular committee probably 15 times. We've held a number of on-street workshops. There's been signage.
But if I don't know anything's going on, I'm not gonna. I mean, I didn't even know you existed as a committee. But the prior speaker has the same experience as I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morton. I understand your frustration, but there has been much discussion. much discussion about that, and if you're there, you see the open street. So
no, I'm not contesting the situation. I'm just simply asking the question from a legal perspective: what has in fact legally been done to contact the people who are involved here or who are being affected? I'm not talking about whether there's been a lot of discussion, because if you have never been contacted, you don't even know this discussion has been going on. And I don't have any, I'm not opposed to the plans or anything. I'm just asking that formal question. What has in fact been done? So I know where to look next time.
Okay, so Kyle has made his statement. You have that statement for the record. If in future, and this is true of any community, not just you, Mr. Morrow, but any other community member, but if you see a DOT project happening, there is a website for DOT that you can reach out and get information. DOT has never, this has been a constant thorn in the community board side with notification. A lot of times the board has to go out and do notification, particularly with businesses, or we went through this with the North Henry reversal. We've gone through this with, and for those longtime warriors that remember the North Henry conversation, and other issues where it's this constant pull and push with DOT. On some occasions, DOT has at our request gone out and done flyering or contacting, and so I don't want to say like DOT never does it, but it's a huge agency. It's a huge community. We're always trying to get the public informed as best we can, but that's the best I can say. And I really need to move on because we are losing time. So, Mr. Vega, I am going to start this off
with Benjamin. He was there.
I'm not. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going by who raised their hand first. I can't deal with that. So just public, bear with me.
I can't track.
Wait. Okay. Good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 speakers on my screen. So, and I'm going to call your names. So be ready when I call on you, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I have Benjamin. I have Brent. I have Dan Elstein. I have Elliot Dravel. I have Jeff Hodson. I have Carrie. And I have Kevin Lachera. And so we'll start with those 6 and we will go from there. So, sorry, just bear with me 1 second. So I am, for the record, I will be, hold on 1 second. I will be, I'll need your full names for the record, but if your name is in the panel, then I don't need you to say it. But if your only a part name or nickname is in there, I need your full name for the record. For those of you that actually read my report once it gets posted on the CV1 website, in this case, I'm going to be just listing your name and general under general points of support, and rather than a full statement. So just so folks are aware that I am paying attention, but can't fit it all in. Anyway, with that said, Benjamin Lample, you are recognized.
All right. Thank you, Dee and Kyle, for the presentation. Huge fan of a lot of what you showed us there. I had one question around the traffic lights in general. I was wondering if there's going to be any update to signals, especially for pedestrian prioritization, and what those signals are prioritizing right now, and how they can be used to help calm car traffic and prioritize bikes and pedestrians.
Okay, so that's actually a question, which I love. And Kyle or Dee, do you want to quick answer that?
Yeah. So the exact timing for the grand signal hasn't been finished because our signal staff is working on their contract with their contractor for the installation. But the signals at Metropolitan, there aren't really any conflicts, neither at Broadway, in terms of turns or anything. There just really isn't a lot of like technical tools for those two. And at Grand would be the one, because it actually has turns into the intersection. That's really the place where we'll make sure when that proposal gets done to make sure that there's pedestrian priority in the phasing.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. Brent Bovenzi.
Hey there. Yeah, thanks so much for all of this, and I hope we get it done as quickly as possible, early summer as a phase one, and then that you continue to take everybody's inputs here for other things they'd like to see, and quickly iterate on those for a phase 1.5, maybe by the fall or in the spring. And I'd love to see just quick iterations so we can address issues as soon as they come up. Thank you.
Great. 28 seconds. I love it. Okay, if you've spoken, please take your hand down. Brent. Going to Dan Elstein. You are up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So first I want to thank CB1 for hosting and Kyle and Dee for your presentation. And just a few points I want to touch on. I want to say that I appreciate the sentiment that Barry is one of the few places in the city where bikers are able to ride side by side, which I think is an often overlooked aspect of streets like these. So I want to thank you for that, as well as thank you for the thought that went into the specific points of direction reversals and taking elevation into account. I want to say, again, thank you for that. And I would like to add that I second a lot of my peers' asks for mid-block interventions all along the corridor. I think those are supremely important for making Barry a place instead of just like a thoroughfare. And that's all the time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Please take your hand down, Dan. I'm so happy you're all doing it under a minute. I love you. Okay, Elliot Drabble, returning champion. Go for it.
Wow, I'm so flattered. All right, well, thank you for the time. I've been volunteering with the Open Street and attending meetings like this and workshops since 2020, and I'm really excited to see the changes that are coming this year, especially the direction reversals and the question about the light on Grand Street, especially very excited about that one. And yeah, the direction reversals to prevent cutting through, and I'd love to see more of the mid-block treatments to try to slow down the drivers who do come through, and just anything to make it more inviting for the pedestrians and bikers to enjoy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jeff Hodson.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeff, legal resident of Berry Street here. Although I have to say I am a renter, I haven't made my millions yet, but thank you, Kyle, for saying the renter voices matter too. My dog's unemployed, so I'm trying to get her a job. But I live on North 8th, between North 8th and North 7th, and I'm obsessed. It's the best thing ever. I grew up in California where I would go to parking lot, but now I wake up, grab my newspaper, walk down the street with my dog to the local coffee shop, Homecoming, and it's great. And I live on a local business hotspot with Lucy's, Antica Jordan Jacks, Teddy's, and all of them. They all love it. I'm obsessed. I know we're making progress. Saw someone did the green circles on the ground. I think that was a great addition. It's working really well, and I'm excited to see things come together ASAP. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff. Carrie, you are next. Carrie, can I get your last name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Witkin, Witkin.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'll be quick. I'm really excited about this proposal and the prospect of it being implemented well before the end of this year. I want to support mid-block hugs and street furniture. I'm really interested in that comment about reinforcing the loading zones with paint. I'd love to see those be successfully implemented on Barry, because it's a feature I think is so necessary throughout our neighborhoods, with the volume of deliveries being made and all of the double parking and just lack of accommodation for trucks making deliveries. I also support making the bike lane a continuous painted green lane, and Banker's Anchor looks fantastic. It's truly exciting to see that plaza come into place 24/7. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, so now I have William. I'm gonna put you on hold for a minute. I have Kevin, then Lydia Korchow, and then Ryan Clonan. So Kevin, please go.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dean, Kyle, and thank you, everybody. I just want to take a moment to just, I think this has been such a collective community effort from the very beginning, and that has been reflected in the support that we see here tonight. What we're seeing on Barry is great, and it's also long overdue. It is a phase one of things that the community wants to see. And it is part of a long process that this community has fought for. And we've had losses. We've lost Driggs and Russell and West. But what we are getting on Barry and what we're getting on Banker's Anchor is sorely needed in this community. We've seen a 71% reduction in injuries on Barry from crashes. We've seen the activation of tens of thousands of square feet of open space. And we've seen the community come together to advocate for it and build something together as neighbors. And that is a really, really powerful thing and an important thing. I only want to see it expanded in all the ways that DOT is able to. I want to see the mid-block activations so that more pedestrian space is set down on this street. I want to see an extension of time to 7 a.m. Really, it ought to be 24 hours. But this is a great start. Please do it with all speed. Our elected officials, we're depending on you to lead and to speak in favor of this at every opportunity you have, and to support these amazing community members and these amazing, agency partners.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, great. Lydia Korchow.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, what I would like to know, these mid-block interventions, I don't know what you're talking about. Will it slow down first responders? And also the furniture that you're proposing, will it take away the parking spaces for residents? The planters, benches that you're talking about, will it take away parking space? And the outreach wasn't too good on March 7th because a lot of my Spanish neighbors did not know about it. And I only got one notice on all of South 2nd Street. So your outreach was very poor March 7th for the Spanish-speaking community.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Korchow. Quick response, DOT?
Yes.
It seemed like that was more directed towards public comments that have referenced mid-block treatments, but I'll address there's an opportunity for, this is one of the largest.
Just to explain what mid-block treatments are, and just because we really didn't get into it.
At one point, we were talking about taking additional space along the curb and marking it out like we're doing at the intersection at various spaces mid-block to allow a little bit more permeability between the sidewalk and the street. So you don't have the like wall of cars effect where once somebody sort of has decided they want to be on the sidewalk or the street, it's very hard to get back. You could potentially be like squeezing in between parked cars. This is one of the larger, I think somebody hit whiteboard. This is one of the larger SIPs we're doing this year and one of the larger SIPs for DOT period. This is a very large and significant project. And, there's an opportunity to consider that in the future, but it's outside of the scope and capacity of this project this year.
So not happening. So thank you.
I still don't know what mid-block intervention is. How is it going to affect
again,
first responders?
It's not happening.
Yeah,
right.
It's very similar to what's at the intersection, but just at various points along.
Will it be an obstacle to the first responders? Yes,
It's not happening. We need to move on, Ms. Corcho. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, Ryan Conan.
You spoke about it endlessly.
The agency did not present it in their plan, therefore it is not really open for discussion. It's a wish list from the public, and that's all.
You should
So
think of safety, please.
Thank you, Ms. Corcho. Thank you, Ms. Corcho. Ryan Conan.
Hey, my name is Ryan Kunin. I'm a resident at Metropolitan in Barrie, and I would like to thank DOT for a very thoughtful plan, particularly Metropolitan in Barrie. That hill, the change of direction is epic. Barrie Street, since it started, Barrie Open Street, the crashes there have stopped, and I'm glad to see that we're thinking further about how to keep pedestrians safe. I would like to see more, and I want to see it 24 hours. And I just would like to ask that the milling schedule be sort of like maybe really kept on top of, because there can be times when it takes forever. I know it's weather dependent, but so many people depend on Barrie Open Street. It's so popular. There's so many, like the Dog Walkers United, like it's just really important. But thank you, and more benches, more planters, more bid block stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay. And Ryan, thank you for that milling comment, because as some of you will know, and I pay special attention to because I have to, sometimes, they tear up the old road bed, and then they wait a long time to put down the new one for whatever reason. And I know it's a scheduling thing at DOT, and it's always a challenge to get that repaving done quickly. But in this case, it really can't just stay open for like a week and a half, and then we get back to like paving it, whatever. So I will encourage DOT to make all haste when that repaving happens, especially given the time of year that it's going to be happening. It's kind of like prime time for open street use. Okay, so I can do, all right, William, stay on tap, but I'm going to do Nathan Pastor, Wendy Carlock, Paul Benson, Yefim Yedernikov, Sloveg, and then David Ruperti. Sorry. Okay. So what did I just say? Sorry. Now I lost it. And
I think you mentioned me first.
Who is the? Yes, Nathan. There you are. You disappeared on me. Okay, Nathan, go right ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Nathan.
And just so we're clear, I'm obviously breaking my own rule, and we've gone over. But the last people that I just called, you were the last speakers. So if I didn't call your name, take your hands down, and we have to move on because we have to talk about Meeker and it's okay. Nathan, please go.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me speak. Thanks to DOT for this presentation. yeah, it's great to see the progress on the plans. I'm excited to see it implemented. Just two things I'd like to say is that I'm sure with less car traffic, emergency vehicles will be able to service the street much more efficiently than they are now or on other streets that have lots of car traffic. So no concerns at all about that for me. And I also, have an unsolicited suggestion for DOT. I don't know if I really like seeing those, the visualization of where the traffic is on the street that you showed at the beginning of your presentation. I don't know if you had that data earlier in the process. I think it would have really helped to see that earlier, because there were discussions in these types of meetings where people were claiming that nobody walks in the street. And so it could have really guided the conversation. And if that kind of information is available earlier, it'd be great to share it. So excited to see this implemented. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Okay, I remember who I called, so when I see you, I'll Sloveg E. I hope I'm saying that right, but I'm probably not.
Solveig, Entwistle, Entwistle. I'd like to formally invite everyone to the Barrie Open Street Earth Day event that we're partnering with DOT. We are bringing in some nonprofits. It's going to be a really great day, April 22nd, Saturday. All are welcome. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Please take your hand down. And I had Wendy Carlock.
Hi, I use the Barrie Street every day on my bike, and I'm hoping for more 24-hour access, as I found myself going down the street the wrong way the other day when it was closed and totally forgot it was not open at that time. And I think other people could benefit from that as well for safety reasons. I'm hoping that perhaps some kind of placemaking could occur near Shake Shack, where all the motor scooters are, for their pleasure as well as everybody else's, just to kind of contain that group of people and give a space for them. And I just really enjoyed this presentation today. I think a lot of improvements are really necessary. What I've seen was great, and I hope it happens as soon as possible because of all the delays. And there were so many people out last weekend on the street enjoying it, and for everybody's safety and the warm weather coming and post-COVID, I just think we need to get this rolling right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Yafim. Sorry, let me reset my timer. Yafim, please go.
Hey, I'm Yefim Vedernikov. Name's in there.
I got you. Go ahead, bro.
Cool. I'm a resident of CB1, and I go to PT, physical therapy, on 7th and White, so I cross Barrie nearly every week. My gym is Vital Gym, and I love that new crosswalk that we're putting in there. Thank you so much. I love the idea of adding a stop sign there on 14th and Barrie. Amazing. Let's extend the open street. Thank you so much for the paint in the middle of the intersections. I think that's going to look so good. Really excited for that. Let's take back the street. Streets are for the people. And I cede my time. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. David Ruperti.
Hi, everyone. This is David. Very excited about what I've seen tonight. I've been volunteering on the Bankers Anchor team for the past year, and we're super excited to see it actually become a real plaza. That's very exciting. So I'm very supportive of all of that. I want to echo what everyone's been saying about implementing all of these plans as soon as possible, and want to echo what people have said about potential future mid-block interventions. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the last two will be Hunter Williams and then Vero. So Hunter Williams.
Hey there. Thanks, everyone. This was great. This was actually my first time really getting into this. I've been on Barrie Street between Metropolitan and North 3rd for about 17 years. So I think this could be really great for our community, and specifically my block, which was in your presentation probably about 4 times, right in front of my apartment. I did have a really specific question about the parking rules between North 4th and North 5th, which currently there's basically no parking allowed at all. I don't know why. It seems pretty antiquated. I think it was mostly for commercial deliveries. I'm wondering if you guys have looked at that at all, just to sort of make up for the lost parking that we're probably gonna see with these with the implementation of this plan.
Okay, quick response from DOT.
I think the section that you're referring to, you're saying specifically the east curb.
Yes.
A lot of that has to do with like legacy curb cuts and stuff. We can definitely take a look again, and just flag if any of that needs to be revisited.
Yeah, I mean, even prior to these plans, it's really never made sense. It was just, there's never been parking allowed there, and it's just a chain link fence with, the side of two people's backyards. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Hunter. And Vero, I need your full name for the record, please.
How you doing? Yes, I'm using my wife's account, so my full name is Kerrick Vasquez.
Spell Kerrick for me.
Kerok.
Kerrick Vasquez as
Vazquez.
Got you. Okay. Okay, please go ahead. You have
Yeah,
1
so
minute.
I've been listening as everything's been going on, and I'm not fully opposed to nothing that's going on to the open street. I actually live right on 119 Grand Street, which is right off of Berry, which is right across the street. My daughter goes to 84, PS 84, and the open concept is cool because I know the park is not being utilized at the moment. But at the same time, me who actually drives to work, when I come home from work, I actually utilize Berry most of the time when I get home because that's most of the time where I can find it. I'm just a little concerned for somebody like me and my wife who also drives, like that I'm not being pushed out completely. And I live literally right across the street from the school. I've lived there all my life. I own my apartment there. And I just want to that's my only concern. Everything else I really have no issue with, just as long as we're not completely pushed out for cyclists and all the tourists that come around, because we do have Berry Park, Domino Park, we do have McCarran Park, that I feel like a lot of times are not being utilized, and I think that should be utilized a little bit more than the open space. But my concern is more parking for me, and the residents that are in the area. But everything else, I'm cool with.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
All right.
And I think that's a good place to end. I want to thank Kyle.
You might have missed me. Sorry. Apologies for interrupting. You said my name.
Who was that?
Paul Benson.
Oh, Paul. Yes, you're right. I apologize. Okay, Paul, you are the last speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Only because I did say it. So go ahead, please.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I mean, thank you so much to DOT for all the work you're doing. I really appreciate how much time you've devoted to listening to the community and honestly creating a plan that'll work for us. I really appreciate it. I live on the south side near Berry and South 6. I support Berry Open Street. I support this plan. It's just such a wonderful amenity to our community. And after, living in Williamsburg for so long, 15 years, because of Berry Open Street, I'm more connected than ever to other people in my neighborhood. And I just can't underestimate how wonderfully rewarding that's been. So I urge the implementation as soon as possible. And I would love to see paint through all the intersections, which was in a previous plan. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Paul. And with that, we are closed. So thank you to Kyle. Thank you to Dee.
Eric.
And yes.
Sorry, one quick question. I know that it wasn't on the agenda to really have a vote, but given the amount of feedback that we've gotten, I really feel like it would be appropriate. Eric, so many people have shown their voice of support. Why can't we?
Kevin, this is a done deal. It doesn't need our support. We have to move on. So thank you. I appreciate that sentiment, but no. Okay, so next is so again, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Dee.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Lot of work, a lot of hours spent. I say this reservedly that I hope this is the last time we see. But only on Berry. Only on Berry. Only on Berry.
The feeling might be mutual, but we'll definitely be back. We really enjoy coming to see you.
Right on. No, really. Thanks to both of you. All right, cool. So, okay, now to our next fun item. Will be Meeker Avenue, and I initially had Craig Bearwald presenting, but I think Zach Wythe is going to come in and do the presentation. Am I correct in that?
Yes, and I have a couple hour long presentation for everyone to
I'm kidding. I don't even have a presentation, so I'm just gonna talk. So
Really?
it'll be cool.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually disappointing because I was hoping, Zach, to see little bike lanes coming off the bridge that connect to the rest of the network, which is what we've been worried about. And now that we're not seeing it, I'm kind of disappointed. And I'm being a little coy, but I really am not happy. However, you have what you have, and I guess we'll have to have you back in a month or two to see some bike connections. But when I spoke to Rhonda and with Craig, we just wanted to the meat of it was to see where you ended last year and what needs to be done and where you're starting and when this year. So let's go with that.
Okay, so last year we didn't do any extra painting, but we did get started on a lot of the signals and we continued the concrete work. So,
And when you talk about these things, can you talk about like from block to block and just kind of so we're understanding where you're talking about?
Yeah. Would it be a little too weird to just pull up Google Maps, or I don't, maybe I shouldn't do that. Okay, so I'll start from, I guess I'll give a whole history of the project. Okay,
you don't have to give a whole history of the project. We know the history of the project.
Well, I mean, like in terms of the implementation, that seems
okay.
like what you're asking.
Okay.
Okay, so
right.
the markings between kind of Kingsland / Sutton Street, like at the very end of the parking bays, those markings were marked all the way to Graham in 2021 at this point, but we didn't have any signalization to allow people to cross in between the parking bays, which is a big part of the project. And I mean, to be honest, I'm just as a bit annoyed at how slow everything's going as everyone here, as someone who has to walk by the site all the time. But so there was a lot of issues with the signals contracting, and that was so that we could add pedestrian signals, add bike signals, stop turn so that you can have a safe time to cross. And that has taken a long time. The only thing that we got in last year was North Henry Street, which that is, if you go to North Henry Street at Meeker Avenue, that is what the rest of the street is supposed to look like, with some variations, but that's like very generally what it should look like. All the lights are going, you have a very specific time to cross. The markings are correct there. So that's the marking side, and the signals part. Well, and then right now, the signal at Apollo has changed already, and the ones at Morgan are close to being ready to go. Like that there's other work that we have to do to convert that to a one-way street.
I'm sorry, say that again. Say that last part again. I heard Apollo. Say the other part again.
Okay. So the Apollo signal has been finished. The work that needs to go there, because there's a part that's coming off the ramp from the BQE, and a part that's on Meeker, and we had to set those on separate timings. The signal at Morgan has had work on it, so you'll see these you'll see bags on the signal, like black bags. So there's work there, but we need to do a little bit more concrete work, and then we'll be able to open up the pathway to the bridge, which is, I think, what you're getting to. That the bigger, and then if I keep going down, signals, I guess, Kingsland should happen this year. Actually, Kingsland's operating already. It said that we have to put the markings in, which should happen fairly soon, spring, summer, depending on. We want to kind of just paint everything at once rather than show up a million times at the site. But if you go to Kingsland and Meeker, you'll see that there's a bike light to cross, and it's operating already. So that one was installed. Monitor is supposed to be signalized, but that admittedly will probably take I think saying this year is probably very hopeful. So I don't know about that timeline. There's a lot of issues with installing new signals, but that is planned to get a new signal at Monitor Street. And then at North Henry, like I said, the changes have happened already, and that's exactly what most of the rest of the intersection should look like. At McGinnis Boulevard, the work has started. You also see bags there, and we expect to finish that one this year too. And then getting to Graham and farther south, we can't say that the signals will be done this year, but we plan to finish all the rest next year. But that's to kind of generalize everything. Between the bridge and Graham Avenue is the plan. We'll have a fully operating path by the end of the year. That's the goal. And probably by the middle of the summer, by the way everything's lined up. All the concrete work's done. It's just a little bit extra. Well, actually, the only concrete work we have to do is at Morgan Avenue, but after that, it should be pretty simple. Concrete work only takes a couple weeks at a time for each intersection. But then for the rest of the year, we'll be working between, we already did Manhattan Avenue last year, but we'll be doing concrete work on Leonard, Lorimer, Union, and Metropolitan. And we'll also be painting within the bays, kind of like what we did in 2021. So it'll start to look like it's operating, but we're still going to have some lag with the signals being installed. So the crossings won't be there. But in terms of the path being there, in between the blocks, we are planning to have all that done by the end of the year. So that was a lot of information. I'm not sure how well anyone followed. I see hands popping up, but
yeah, well, I mean, okay, so I've been asking Rhonda for this presentation for 4 months now. It's been back and forth. I'm really at a loss as to why you and Craig or Ted are not here with a PowerPoint or something to say, oh, remember when you asked about this? Here's the connection to the bike lane onto the bridge. Oh, and here's the thing. I mean, like, or a punch list or something. I mean, you're giving me this thing, and I'm doing my best to like list what you're telling me, but this is not what DOT is supposed to do. You were supposed to come to us with a presentation as I asked for 4 months in advance, and it got delayed, and then it was going to happen. So it's not like you didn't have time to do it. It's like you didn't want to do it, and now you're here and you're listing these things, and I'm happy that this work is happening, but it's hard for me to understand, and it's clearly hard for the public to understand. And I'm really upset. I'm really upset because, you know, it's not like I asked for this yesterday and like we just threw you on the agenda. It's been a while, and you've been working on this for a while. You know, I've got people emailing me constantly about what is going on with Meeker, and now, you know, a lot of them are here actually, so they've heard it for themselves now. But, you know, not a great look. I'm just, you know, I don't even know what question to ask except
to respond, we can write up something to say the current status, but to be honest,
why are you writing up something now when it's not like there's not old you know, PowerPoint presentations that can't be tweaked. Like, I mean, it's not like you're reinventing the whole thing. You're just updating old PowerPoint presentations. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The PowerPoint presentation shows what the plan is, and there's nothing that's changed from that. In terms of implementing it, things change very quickly, to be honest. Like, the signal work has been lagging so much that it's been hard to give updates, and all of a sudden it's starting to come online. So, yeah, I understand the frustration. It's annoying. It's annoying to us having to track everything and watching it go so slowly too. So,
well, you know, I'm not happy. So with that, I'll give it over to the committee. William Vega. Sorry, William.
Yeah, I just got upset, so I muted myself. This is not acceptable. I mean, this is, you know, we have tried to be supportive of DOT to get our streets and sidewalks safe, and to get nothing, no information, no update. It's not disappointing. It's disrespectful. And we represent our community, so we respect North Brooklyn. So you're disrespecting all of North Brooklyn. I give up my time to other board members. Thank you.
Thanks, William. I don't see. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll do. I'm just going from what I can see. So I'm going to do Bronwyn, Kevin, Paul, and then I don't see any other committee members with hands raised. So we'll start there and we'll go from there. So Bronwyn, please go ahead.
Zach, what's the cause of the delay of everything? Like the completion? I don't think.
Good luck with that question, Bronwyn.
Explained that.
The main cause of the delay is that it's taking a long time to install the changes in signal work. That the concrete work also is significant, because every time that we work on one of these corners or one of these crossings, we end up changing the entire both sides of the parking bay, and because of ADA laws, we're supposed to upgrade all the ramps on all the adjacent corners. So that's why all of these intersections take a while.
But that was all
the
part
slowest
of...
thing is the signals, and that is very clear by that there's only one signal operating right now.
And what's the delay on the signals?
There was a point last year where it's a capacity issue. To be honest, it's not my unit that signals, but from there's a lot of things breaking, and it's kind of the same contractors that are building this that are the same contractors that are fixing things. So it's just very slow. And
I do remember Kyle saying that there were contractor problems.
It was a problem with the contract for installation of signals, and I believe that's compounded by the fact that there's been a backlog that built up because of the pandemic and the slowdown of the original, work in the beginning of the shutdown. It's unfortunate. It's not anybody here's fault. I don't think it's anybody at DOT's fault that this work has gotten slowed up. It's out of our hands. It's not a lack of passion for the job.
Yeah, of course. And Eric, thank you for your impassioned response. I, of course, echo your disappointment and frustration. And I agree with William that it is disrespectful. And Zach, of course, we understand this is not you, but this is our forum to express, Rhonda, our frustration and disappointment and needs of the community. And it's not just that it's frustration and that it's disappointing to not meet deadlines. Like, it's dangerous as it is now. It was dangerous before, and it's more dangerous now because it's unclear where people are supposed to be when. I mean, I try and ride my bike, I try and cross, and it's really quite unsafe. There have been, I don't know, I'm sure Kevin's going to pull out numbers. I know that there have been multiple injuries and I think a death along Meeker in the last year. And, it's just, I understand that there are signal and constraints. I'm in the industry of construction. I get it. But projects are happening elsewhere, and we need to prioritize this incredibly dangerous corridor in our neighborhood. I also just want to do, as I always do when we're talking about Meeker, put my plug in for the extension of signal time crossing at the intersection of McGinnis or Humboldt, I guess it is at that point, and Meeker, where I understand from previous DOT presentations, the signal timing is not going to be extended. I'm talking about Zach crossing northbound from Humboldt across Meeker to where it becomes McGinnis. There is not enough time to cross at that intersection. You can't get through at one crossing, even if you're running. And especially not, with kids or carrying groceries or anything else. So I've asked for this before. I know it's a very specific demand, but if you can please reconsider the signal timing at the intersection of Humboldt and Meeker in the work, I think that is a much needed improvement to make a safe and viable crossing at that intersection. Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Kevin Costa.
Bronwyn, I remember a while back you filmed it while crossing the street. I think that everyone on this meeting and at DOT should see that clip because you're walking with your kids and like in real time we can see like there's just not enough time to cross. So to your point, like absolutely like that something needs to be done. But I also think that everyone should see that that video.
I think I sent it to the board. I don't remember, but Zach, if you cross there, you said you crossed here, just go to Humboldt and cross north and you'll see what I'm talking about, right by the liquor store to the gas station.
Yes, that sounds right from my own personal experience too. I don't have the timing in front of me, but part of changing this crossing will change the timing. But if someone else said before that crossing wasn't changing, I can't say it is. But the timing will change a little bit. So I'll have to look at it. I don't have it on the top of my head.
So I wanted to also echo, everyone's sentiment of frustration, disappointment. I totally concur with Bronwyn that it's dangerous, totally unsafe. I mean, thank goodness, like even the crosswalk, cement work was done because for a while it was just, a hole in the ground. Like if you were using the bike lane, like I'm surprised that more people haven't sued the city because of that. And Zach, I understand, Zach, Rhonda, I understand that like there might be delays, but I think that everyone in this community like deserves to know like why beyond just like there are contract delays. And it's been a while since the pandemic slowdowns. And I think that all of us can understand that we're still living through the backlogs to a certain extent, but I really think that we need further clarity. So Zach, I would love if you could send us a write-up of like what's going on. Is there no one home at DOT? Like, is it staffing issues? Is there a CP not getting through at OMB? Like, what's actually going on? And if the contractors can't step up, why is it that the signalization cannot be done in-house? Or why can like DDC not step in? Like, what kind of special equipment is needed for these like, complex signal installations? But like, we need to know, and we deserve to know as a community. And like I'm more confused than anything. And at this point, we're moving on to other projects like with the BQE, with like other bigger, bolder projects, and we're wondering like, hey, we can't even get a bike lane under Meeker Ave. Like, we can't even get signalization done. What's going to like instill faith in this community that DOT isn't just going to deliver or talk out of its butt essentially and like not actually deliver on anything? The definition of false promises. And like, we get it, like there are delays, like Bronwyn was saying very articulately, like she works in construction, she understands that there are delays, but like we deserve to know why. Like, what's going on? Is it an OMB issue? Like, why can't
I
it be
think
brought
you
in-house?
stated the question, and I think it's going to be, if Eric wants us to provide a write-up like that, he can send that email to me. That's fine, but I think we understand the question, so there's no value in saying it on a loop.
All right, thank you. And please, we just want safety and execution. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Paul Kelterborn.
I'll take my hand down, Eric, because I was just going to pile on with my disappointment and frustration as well. I think the point's been made.
Got it. All right, fine. So thank you. And Zach, this isn't personal. It's just business, but, and you've done presentations for us before that have been fantastic. So I know you're a little on the spot here. So I just want you to understand it's not personal. DOT is doing tons and tons of good work in North Brooklyn. There are better bike lanes under whatever with the parking and all that other nightmare stuff and whatever. I mean, there are improvements, but it's the presentation that I'm really having the biggest issue. I mean, I don't like the delays either, but it's the presentation. Anyway, so all right, so we will do public now, and I only see 3 hands up. I can extend it to 2 minutes, but then we really need to go to old business. We'll do Kevin, Merrill, and then David, and then I think we'll close it out because there's not a lot much more we can learn, and beating up on DOT is not going to get us the information we want. So I will formalize that in an email to Rhonda and Zach for some kind of substantive, statement that I can put in the record. Not only what I tried to memorialize here in my report as I'm writing as you speak, but something else. Anyway, so Kevin, please go ahead.
Could I also speak? Sorry, I raised my hand.
Who's that?
Could I also?
I see. Okay. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna hear Kevin. We're gonna hear Meryl. We're gonna hear David. We're gonna hear Yafim, and then we're gonna move on. Okay. Thanks. Kevin, go ahead.
I think David's hand might be up from before, Eric. I haven't seen it come down, but I'll let him clarify.
Well, when I get to them, we'll see. Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I think.
In 2 minutes, Kevin. So
Yeah, all right. You tell me when it's time on the clock. I want to highlight here that Meeker has been under discussion in this community for a decade. So since 2014, people in this neighborhood have been talking about major street redesign on Meeker that involves safe bike lanes and safer pedestrian path. Obviously, it's been a conversation for 70 years in terms of the interruptions the BQE causes. What we were told, which was during the pandemic, in May of 2021, that this project would be completely done by now, not half done by the end of the year. We were told that phase 1, which was concrete and signals, would be complete by the end of 2021. And then phase 2, which was concrete and signals from Graham to Metro, would be done by the end of 2022. This is the first communication we've had about it in 4 months. The communication, again, all the caveats. Zach, I appreciate you. This is above your head. I understand that. But the fact that this is the way that this is coming to us, not 4 months late or 5 months late or 6 months late, but there's been no updates. This was supposed to be done now, and now we're being told that perhaps it will be 50% done a year late. In that time, I just did the crash mapper data. From May of 2021 to February of 2023, there have been 514 crashes on Meeker Avenue. 9 cyclists injured, 13 pedestrians injured, 261 motorists injured, and 2 deaths, one of which was Molly Pearson, who was killed at Meeker and Skillman. Okay? This is not just an annoying delay. This is not something that we're going in a loop. This is real consequences for people in this community. This is deaths and injuries and our day-to-day life. It is completely and totally unacceptable. I don't understand how basically no work happened in 2022, right? A little bit of concrete work, but comparatively, a lot of work was done in 2021, and basically no work was done in 2022. And I just, we need to get an update in writing. I'm going to be pushing on this at every single transportation committee meeting from here on out until it is done. We will be organizing people to come back to the space. We'll be pushing on DOT. Community members have died and been injured. It's totally unacceptable. Please bring that back to Keith. Bring that back to the bike unit. Bring that back to all the people that are supposed to be here today that sent you instead, Zach. So
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, Eric. I just,
I know. Thank you. Meryl. And that's Meryl Laborde, right?
Yeah. Do you need me to spell
it? Sure, why not?
Laborde.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks. Please go ahead.
So I lived
2 minutes.
on Kingsland and Meeker, and I don't know if this has come up before, but has DOT given us what the signal changes are going to be? Because the 2 that have happened so far have made the intersections much more chaotic and much harder to cross. They've eliminated the LPIs at both intersections, and I'm very worried that this is going to actually make things worse, especially as you're doing this piecemeal and you haven't, because you're only doing little bits at a time. Right now, crossing Kingsland is incredibly dangerous. Crossing at North Henry is incredibly dangerous. Crossing at McGinnis has been incredibly dangerous. If that signals the next one to change, I'm worried it's going to get worse. My next question would be, you said that we're going to do painting. What painting are you going to do? Are you saying we'll be done through Metropolitan this year? Is that the goal? Are we doing this in another phase? And then, yeah, my other concern is that you're saying, oh, there might be delays to concrete work, but you said it takes only a few weeks to do that when we all were there for the concrete work in 2021 when it was months of nothing moving. So like the construction barriers and whatnot would go out and then the work would be half finished for months at a time. So do you have actual data on how the signals will change and how that will make the intersection safer? And what is the actual scope of the painting for this year?
During the present, I'm looking at what's posted online right now. For the presentation, we put it in words on how the signal changed. I know we did make diagrams, but I have to check whether we fully sent those public, but they're sitting somewhere. So in the worst is a weird way to say it, but in any case, we could show what the diagrams look like also. The LPIs were a big concern actually for the project because we had just installed LPIs on the corridor and it was a concern to remove LPIs. So one of the things, especially at North Henry, what you'll see is the right turn off of North Henry is delayed by 7 seconds. So the through movement's allowed, but we're still adding delays so that you get a little bit of a head start to cross the street. It's maybe what's made some of the signal work spiral into something that's a lot more work than just changing a timing or adding 1 or 2 signal heads. It's usually a lot of signal heads. So, sorry, I'm trying to remember all the rest of the questions. For painting, yes, the goal for painting is to have everything painted from the bridge to Metropolitan, but with the caveat that the part between Graham and Metropolitan won't have the crossings in it. It'll look like what the other sections look like mostly now, where it's just painted within the parking bay.
By when? Painting from bridge to Metro by when? By the end of the year?
By the end of the year, yeah. That's...
Or by the end of painting season, right? So like November?
Yeah, that is the goal. The even more soon goal is to have just the bridge painted all the way to Graham with all the crossings, like with everything operating where you can fully go in between the bridge and Graham, and that should happen even quicker. But
so the concrete work will be done to connect Morgan and Kingsland to what's already there. Like you will be removing a lane of traffic.
Yes.
And connecting the BQE section by this year.
Yes, that's really early on the list for concrete work. To get really into the details, we are I was about to give you meeting dates, but maybe that's kind of weird. But
it's not. That would
early April, we are going to break ground at Leonard and Lorimer first because there's capital work that's about to go on there to build out those pedestrian spaces. That's from years ago, but it just ends up that we overlap at the same time. So we're kind of rushing to do that work, and then we're going to immediately go to Morgan. So I imagine Morgan, the work will start around May-ish time. And then once Morgan goes in, all we have to do is mark some crossings and finish up some signals that are mostly installed at this point. So, yeah, that's why I say I'm pretty confident on that. Sometime during the summer, everything should link up where you can fully bike from the bridge to Graham. Yeah, the construction is also very messy too, but I'm going to try to be positive. As someone that's working on this project a lot, I try to stay positive, and as many groups as we're coordinating and wrenches thrown into it.
When you send me that statement, kind of put all that in there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, great. Okay. Yefim?
Thanks for letting me speak. I cross Meeker every day to go to McCarran Park. I love it. Very dangerous. And I just wanted to say, this is just brainstorming off the top of my head. I've been attending a bunch of BQE visioning meetings, and a lot of them also talk about Meeker and revitalizing Meeker and revitalizing the enthusiasm it'd be great to sort of take some of that momentum and like use that to push this forward. Maybe even incorporate some of the feedback and learnings from those visioning sessions. And like I know some of them were speaking about maybe a road diet on Meeker. It'd be awesome to just get that all out there instead of like redoing Meeker once and then redoing Meeker over and over again. But yeah, just off the top of my head, thank you again, and looking forward to more updates.
Part of the idea of this quick project is that in the long term, it's sort of activating the space under the bridge. So we'll definitely take information from that. I had almost gone to that, but you know, this is a conflict because there was one tonight actually, right, for North Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Yefim. Thank you, Zach. Okay, Ben, you're just under the gun here, but you are the last speaker, and then we're going to old business.
Great, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to echo Yefim's mention of what we've been doing with the BQE road and Meeker road diet stuff. I was one of the co-authors on a document we put together about how we can tie the Meeker road diet into bigger BQE work. I'm happy to send that over to you if you have an email that you're willing to share, just so you can see what the community has already been looking at and talking about for several months now.
Is there a chat in here, or I guess you could
There's
send it
not,
through Eric.
but yeah, Ben, I'll tell you what. Email that to the board office, to the transportation committee's attention, and I will put it in the record, and then I will forward it to DOT and I'll report it out in old business next month.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay. Well,
Eric, can I ask Zach one last question? Sorry to interrupt you.
One last question. Go ahead.
Okay. Just given the delay and timing of what we were told and what we're getting on Meeker, I thought I would just, since you're here, Zach, ask. We were told we would hear something on McGinnis and have a proposal from DOT and a presentation in winter of 2023, and we're now firmly in spring of 2023. I was wondering if you know when we'll be expecting an update
It's
from McGinnis.
Bronwyn, I can answer that. It's coming.
Yeah,
and Rhonda, I don't know if you have any further info on that, but I know that it's coming.
I know it's coming, but when's it coming?
Like in the next month or two. Rhonda, can you?
That is the plan. Yes.
Got it. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm not wrong. That's good.
Thank you.
It's coming. Yes,
Thank
and that will be
you.
the only item on the agenda that night. I can
can't
promise
imagine
you.
why.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so that closes the item. Zach, sorry to beat you up, but I'm very upset. And I really do appreciate the work that you do as an individual. I've seen it. It's good work, but not happy tonight. So, okay. So I'll be reaching out to Rhonda for a nice DOT essay on construction updates and timelines and punch lists and all that good stuff. And also, I'm sure you're taking notes on the questions that came up from Merrill and other people. I'm trying to memorialize it, but I'm also typing and thinking and whatever. So anyway, thank you, Zach. Rhonda, I don't know if you want to stay on for old business, but
I'll stay around a little longer.
You're the best. Okay. All right. So old business.
Thank you, Zach.
Yes, thank you, Zach.
Thanks,
okay,
everyone.
Okay.
Eric, yes, thank you.
Yes.
We received a correspondence from Rhonda, and we appreciate you, Rhonda, about intersection on Graham and Jackson, get traffic lights, and also the stop signs on Wood Point Road, both directions. And the correspondence, we're going to get the findings in the spring. I just want to make sure that's on course for the traffic lights, and in the summer for the stop signs.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that you and I had email correspondence. So I think the best bet would be for you to just follow up with me in an email, and I'll follow up with the people I get that information from. Okay?
Yeah. So William, with that, if you do that, obviously you always do copy me and the board on it, but do that. And Steve reminded me that because Passover is late this year, we will not have a full board meeting until April 18th. So there's plenty of time to put that in the record.
Okay, just one thing, just to remind people that our City Councilwoman Jennifer is having a workshop, a town hall meeting with DOT regarding BQE on the 30th. And so just letting folks know about that. Thank you. Oh, at 211 Ansel Street, where we used to have our community board meetings.
I think that's about Grand Street. I don't think that's about BQE. Ryan.
Yeah, that is not about the BQE. It's a workshop on the bike network changes in
Well,
CB1.
the correspondence we got for Jennifer is a town hall meeting. But that being said, there'll be other questions related to
there
DOT
is
concerns.
No, there is a BQE town hall that she's doing, but that's a different date because I know the 30th.
That's not it.
I just RSVP'd for the 30th for the Grand Street thing, so that's the only reason. I just did it before we jumped on this meeting, but you know what? I'll follow up and I'll put it in the report. And William, if you find out before I do, just shoot me an email.
Okay, doke.
But that's actually new business. Well, that's not really because we portrayed ourselves with Grand Street for quite a few months. So yeah, so that's 211 Ames. So you can go to the Congresswoman, elevating her before her time, to the Councilwoman's website and get details on that workshop. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so old business. I just want to quickly go through. Well, I don't really have a lot of old business. I'll just say that we got a response, which is unusual, from I don't even Inspector G of the Highway Patrol regarding a letter that we sent regarding the incident at Grand and Graham. I think I distributed to the board, so you should have read it. And I think it was distributed to the Transportation Committee, but it was just the determination by NYPD was that the motorist, the motorcycle, was, he was illegally driving in a motorcycle, was illegally in the bike lane. And according to what they have, he tried to beat the truck who had the right of way to make the turn, and the rest is tragedy. But I just want to update people, and that letter's out there, so check your email for it if you're on the committee.
Eric, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I mean, understanding that maybe he wasn't on a bicycle, but do motorists ever have the right of way making a right turn crossing a bike lane like that?
Does a motorist ever have the right of way? Well, I mean, as far as I understand, they're supposed to yield to pedestrians and cyclists that are in the crosswalk if the light is giving them right of way, the pedestrians or the cyclists. In this case, though, what I understand is that this was not the case, and this was a motorized vehicle, not a bike, and should have been in the lane behind the truck and not trying to beat him on the right. Not to say, we want people to get hurt, but you got to be smart on both sides. So anyway, that's all I have for old business. I'll get you a better answer, Paul. We have William's old business. Do you have old business, Paul?
I do have a couple old business items.
A couple? Ay, ay, ay. All right, go ahead.
Well, you nixed all my new business items, so
Not mixed exactly, just, put it off. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask about was the loading zone. I emailed about this a couple weeks ago, Rhonda, at Maspeth and Olive.
Yep.
Keith, what do you think?
What what do I think about it? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean the placement of it isn't really that practical.
Yeah,
so-
it's not my call, but I have to say that I kind of advocated for what you were saying, and asked the person that that design, Corin,
Mhm.
to weigh in, because it's really, I didn't feel like it's my place to say that I think that they should do that, but yes, so it's an ongoing conversation, and I want them to, to understand what's there right now. It sounds like it's not working.
Yeah, it's on the opposite side of the street from where it makes sense for the everything. So okay, all right. I can check back in next month.
Sure, but I mean, I don't, I would anticipate that you're going to get a response on its own timeline, probably before the next transportation committee meeting.
Okay. My second question was about what I presented last week, Eric, about adding a protected bike lane around Macri Triangle on Metropolitan.
Right.
And we didn't take a vote or do anything formal. So I'm not sure the best way to follow up. Or I might suggest that we take a vote on it if that's
well, not like just coming out of the blue from not coming out of the blue, but there were going to be, you were going to I thought make some changes to the presentation, and then I thought we were gonna send it to DOT for something, or you were gonna put it in the portal. Did you put it in the portal?
Yes, I put it in the portal. And
did you send me the thing?
I did. I sent the number.
Okay. So let's table that for now, and I'll follow up. I'll put, okay, let me follow up with Rhonda on what's in the portal, and I will report it out in this report in April, and then we'll, at the April meeting, and then we'll take it up next month.
Okay.
This is William just saying, I apologize. I misread the email. You guys were correct about Grand Street. Thank you.
Okay. Macri Triangle bike lane and future battle with NYPD. Okay, great. Okay, so there's that. Okay. Paul, your hand is down. I assume you're done.
Well, my third thing had to do
with all business. Okay, go ahead.
My third thing had to do with about Crash Mapper. Maybe that's new business, but
that's new business.
Okay, fine. I'll save it for new business.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll do Bronwyn, then Steve, then Katie, and then we'll go to public. Bronwyn, go ahead. Old business.
Sorry, I keep putting my hand down instead of unmuting.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask about the sanitation, parking, two sides thing.
I have sent an email to Ms. Cunningham at the SNY, and I have yet to get a response. I also, there's a resident on the north side that's been emailing the office that I haven't been able to follow up with either.
What is the process? Do you know? Like, I just remember last year that they did a investigation and found that we met the sanitation scores for going down to 2 days from 4, and then that was the end of it.
Right. So DSNY has to sign off, and then all DOT does is put up signs once they get the sign off from DSNY. But I need answers on both questions from sanitation, and uncharacteristically, Ms. Cunningham is not getting back to me, so I have to track her down a little bit and follow up. But thanks for reminding me. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Katie.
Thanks, Eric. So I could have brought this up with the BQE old business. I just wanted to share that, North Brooklyn Parks, as many of you know, was a community outreach partner with DOT on the BQE process. So we've been doing some outreach over the last few months, which has culminated. We've submitted our report to DOT analyzing that feedback. Some folks submitted some longer form feedback. Benji's comment about the community report is included in that. So Eric, I'm going to send that to your committee so that you all have it for your records. That's one thing. The other thing is, just the traffic and lack of street safety and regulation around under the K Bridge Park that continues to be an issue, and I continue to bring it up. We are approaching spring, a spring season again, where we anticipate park usership to increase as it did last spring. And the regulations that we discussed as possibilities last spring have yet to happen. So I will continue bringing it up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Please. Talk to Ben and see if you just want to send that to the committee, and I'm assuming you're talking about the same document. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I can send it as well. I mean, it's because ours is bigger, but yeah, they should definitely send it separately as well.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks. Steve Kessler.
Thank you, Eric. I just want to give folks a head up that through the Environmental Protection Committee, we received a notice from DEC that the remediation of 210 Greenpoint Avenue, the former Speedway station, is going to commence soon. So it's going to be, a mess over there with, heavy vehicles going in and out. The gate is going to be on Greenpoint Avenue. And then related to that, as kind of overflow from our deliberations about the remediation, there was a worry about the fire station vehicles coming across on Greenpoint Avenue, trying to make the turn south onto McGinnis and being able to clear the Jersey barriers there. So we requested an inspection of that intersection, and they've been really it's been a delayed response, but they finally came back to us saying FDNY is doing a district-wide inspection of all the traffic diets that are potentially affecting the efficiency of FDNY responses in our area, including that one. So stay tuned for that. So that was it.
Thanks, Steve. So that the committee and the public knows, Steve sent me a picture of a dangerous bus loading unloading situation that I guess you caught today, right, Steve, or somebody sent you?
It was a couple days ago. I was walking by and saw the bus stop sign there, right next to where the construction site gate will be. So
right. So I just want, you had asked if the bus stop needs to be moved, and I reached out to Andy Inglesby at MTA, who got back to me right away, and we got on a three-way call with I don't have his name offhand, but the person that was responsible for taking notification from contractors, construction sites, that we're going to be moving into the sidewalk, we're doing this thing, etc. And so he's going to follow up on whether that bus stop needs to be moved or what the situation is, because as far as he can see from the readily available documentation is that they never applied or let MTA know that there was going to be a conflict with the bus stop. So Andy's working on that for me. And since we won't meet till the 8th, since we won't have the report until the 18th, I might actually have a chance to put that in this report for the record. So thanks for setting that tonight.
No, definitely. And it's awesome that you jumped right on it. So thank you for that.
Yep, no problem.
Sorry, Steve. Eric, can I just get clarification from Steve about what you mean, Steve, by traffic diets? I mean, I know what you're talking about over by, construction. The Greenpoint Avenue sidewalk is blocked for pedestrians because that's the way I go to Key Food every day when I'm going on. But what do you mean by traffic diets? That they're
I think in
look
reference to the intersection, it's the narrowing of the roadway on McGinnis Boulevard where Jersey barriers are placed into the street as a detour for pedestrians because the construction shed extended to the curb.
Right. And they're in the parking lane there.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I just want to clarify because it's not a narrowing of the travel lanes where the fire trucks would go. It would be the barriers that are in the parking lane where cars would normally be or where a bus would be. And because the fences are blocking the pedestrian sidewalk, which we've been asking to have cleared since, you've been asking as long as I've been asking. And they carved out a little piece of it. I just saw today, but not the entire thing. Right?
That's correct. Just in the corner there for some reason.
Okay. I just want to get clarification about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is on my radar for folks to know. That's why when Steve sent me that today, I was like right on top of it because this, Bozina Kaminsky brought it up to me 2 years ago when they first put up when the gas station first closed, and because I'm over there all the time, I was like, this is never going to work, right? So. And guess what? It's not working. So anyway, it's on my radar. It's on a couple committee members' radar, and we're going to keep. And Kevin, it's definitely on your radar. So okay. So thanks. Okay, so we will do Ryan, Zach, and then Kevin, and then new business. So, but we're on the 2-minute rule. So because it's 9:11 and we're approaching 9:30. Okay, Ryan, go ahead. Hello? Did I?
Unmute yourself.
Ryan, you're muted.
All right. Okay.
There you go.
Duh.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure, I don't know if I missed it, but that we discussed or there was a traffic death of cyclists at Johnson and Morgan.
New business. I got it. Okay. Zach, sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Just checking in on an update for commercial. We've noticed that stop signs have been put in without much discussion into the community. There's no lines or crosswalks. I know a representative of DOT is on the line. I'd love to just get a quick update. The stop signs almost have made things more dangerous as cars ignore them, but pedestrians expect cars to stop now. So.
Zach, just to be specific, when were they put in and where?
They're put in. There's a stop sign now at the corner of Franklin and Commercial. It's now went from a one-way stop to a three-way stop. So,
and when did that go in?
I think it went in within
like
the
this
last
week?
Month or so.
Okay, so since the last transportation committee meeting.
Yeah, pretty much. And we've been sitting there. I've been talking to people. I mean, maybe it's been at most 6 weeks. It might have been just put in right before the last meeting. But I wanted to wait and see what was going on and hear people's opinions. Essentially, a great gesture. Just they're not being used, so people expect cars to stop, and cars are not noticing them. There's no enforcement of the no parking, no standing zones, etc. So cars are missing. There's no lines. So just wanted to get an update on that. And if
where was the other? You said there were two. So where's the other one? Franklin and Commercial. And where's the other one?
Oh no, it's a three-way stop now because it's two-way street.
I see. Yes. Okay. All right.
So there's that question, and just making sure DOT is still on schedule to present by the end of May.
June.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Rhonda, you still there?
Yeah, so we this is like the marking season hasn't even started yet. But and I wouldn't know off the top of my head about one specific intersection in
Gotcha.
in all of the 5 community boards that I cover in that way. Like I don't know every
Yeah.
time a stop sign goes in. I certainly don't know that, I don't even think the people that put the markings down could answer the question about exactly when the markings will go down. Like I said, marking season starts in April generally, and it's temperature related,
Of course.
but it
Okay.
can't start before a certain time because I think contracts go into action. So certainly, Eric, if you want to send me this location, I
Yes.
can follow up on that and make sure that it's just by asking about it, it will perhaps elevate
Generate
it
a
on the list.
priority.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
And
And
I'm
Zach,
sorry,
just-
there was a
I'm sorry,
second
go ahead.
question. What was it? He had a second question. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
just-
not feeling well, so my brain's not
Oh,
fully functional
Go
right now.
ahead. I'm sorry, Rhonda. Go ahead, Zach. Second point.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure things are still on schedule for
for
DOT to
June.
present in June for the DOT to present. I don't know if it was for the Transpo committee or to the full committee. I just wanted to make sure that was still on schedule as we're
Just to be clear, it won't be a presentation. They'll release the results of the study. So we won't be having
Okay.
them. But if I have that study released, I will report it out, and it'll be part of the report for June.
You talking about
Perfect.
West End Commercial?
That whole
Yeah.
well,
Corridor.
the whole commercial, what's being studied now, and then the request that the board and the electeds put in for another look at West End
One way,
Commercial
yeah.
and the reversals.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that was in conjunction with the fact that we have a capital project coming there, and we are, my understanding is we have not yet made a formal request, but my understanding is that we are still on target to make a presentation about on that capital project by by June. And I think it would probably be up
I'm wrong.
to the executive committee to say if it should go to the full board or the transportation committee.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would well, that's the sticking point because it would have to go on the June agenda because we're off July and August. And the committee wouldn't even be able to take it up until September. So, the work wouldn't happen this summer anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
This would be really just the very first step in,
right. Okay.
commercial
And so
pro-
there's no conversations in July. I just want to make sure things keep moving, as given the urgency of the problem, is there more buildings are getting finished.
Well, yeah. I mean, there
and people
are
are moving in.
There, sometimes they do the board does emergency meetings in July and August, but it really has to be something like some land use item that's on the clock or something like really crazy.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure
think-
that this is
look,
moving.
Here's the thing, Zach. Here's what I'll tell you, Zach. You have the electeds fighting for you on this issue. The board has supported the study for what you had asked for. So this is on DOT's radar in a big way, and this capital project is happening. And we're getting directly from DOT, Rhonda, that we're gonna have a presentation in June. So the wheels are turning, and we just have to live through the process at this point.
totally appreciate it.
But I appreciate
my role
it.
is just to keep putting momentum.
I'm just that's
keeping the
what
fire
you
going.
do. That's what you do. And then I heard the bureaucracy. So or we
I
heard
got
the
you.
bureaucracy. So okay, all right, great. Thanks, Zach.
But
Kevin.
Eric, I just
Yes,
want to say
yes,
this
go ahead.
though, that separate and apart from this capital project that's been in development, there was this request from the electeds and the community and the transportation committee that we consider these I think two different one-way conversions
Mhm.
as I guess part of the larger project. So I mean, I'm not here telling you that I know that that could be fully evaluated.
No, right.
I don't know the timeline for that.
I know.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
I mean, I think that you phrased in your letter
I'm
that
sorry.
you were looking for a response by
we
a
wanted
certain time.
Yes, we have to put the pressure too. So
Okay, but I just want to be on record that
I know you're not promising
okay.
that. I know you're
No,
not. Okay.
but it is my understanding. I mean, I'm not promising anything because none of it is within my control. But
Right.
but my understanding is that we are would be coming with the show you the capital project.
Great. Okay.
Right.
Love it. Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Very much.
And hopefully we can fit that into the June full board agenda, but we will see because I think you had said the 23rd the study would be done and ready and all that other stuff in the board meeting. That is like the 10th or 11th. I can't remember. Anyway, but we'll see. But it's not happening this summer, so we'll. It's on my radar. I'm not forgetting about it, and Zach, you're not forgetting about it. So,
Promise I
and
won't.
other other people are beating me up about it. So we're on it. Okay.
Thank you, Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you following up in the crosswalk too.
Okay, we are fast running out of time, and I have two items that I really need to do for new business. So Kevin, make it quick, please. Old business.
The one thing I just, Rhonda, for your clarification, those direction reversals that the electeds were asking for were reviewed and basically presented to CB1 in 2016. Karen Nieves sent me along the presentations from 2016. So that is what's under consideration. That's what the electeds are asking for. It's not it's new insofar as it's another letter. It's on new paper, but it's not a new request for DOTs. That should be helpful, I think, in incorporating that into the capital plan. I wanted to also just briefly note regarding that Grand and Graham. I know Eric said, both sides in this regard, but something I do want to point out is that truck that killed that moped rider, obviously the cop said, he came out of nowhere, he made the right turn, et cetera, but also like that truck had 30 traffic violations, in the last like less than 6 years, last 5 years. 30 traffic violations, including 17 speeding violations in school zones. So, I mean, just if we're putting on the record things about an incident that, cast, I don't know, maybe unfairly cast blame on a victim. I know that's not your
I'm
intention.
not casting blame on a victim.
I know that's not your intention.
I'm reporting what the Highway Patrol said to me.
Sure, yes, but oftentimes that is something that people say that the Highway Patrol do. So but I just want to make sure that's on the record. And the other thing, I do hope we cover in new business the 2 cyclists who have been killed in the district in the last month. But then finally, just piggybacking on Steve, and I really appreciate Steve for bringing it up. I walked past, as I always do, that corner of Greenpoint Avenue and McGinnis Boulevard today, and basically 10% of the sidewalk was open at the corner. The sidewalk on McGinnis and the sidewalk on Greenpoint, like 95% of it was blocked on each side, but 5% on the corner was open. So they had rebuilt the tiniest little portion of it, this little tiny pie slice of sidewalk, but they solved only 10% of the problem. So I just wanted to flag that for Rhonda. Again, it's exhausting to continue to bring this up. As Steve has said, we've been bringing this up for a couple of months now. It seems like if they were asked to solve the problem, they did not solve the problem, and I just back to the drawing board, I guess, but they really need to, if they're starting this construction soon and there's going to be crews on the ground, they need to move those fences back to give the public access to the sidewalk, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thanks, Kevin. All right, new business. Ryan already brought this up. I'll credit her with it. Yes, we unfortunately have to report again. And I know Paul is going to bring this up too. That we've had 2 fatalities within a week of each other. Well, it's unclear whether he was working as a delivery person, but it was at 6 a.m., I believe. Saturday the 11th. Riding in the bike lane on Kent. There's the whole section with the Jersey barriers, and there was a flatbed parked in the bike lane. It's a little unclear as to why he hit it, and we haven't gotten the full police report. But guess what? We always do a letter whenever there is a fatality on our streets, unfortunately, and so we will be. I'll need a vote to send an inquiry letter on that fatality, but then also a letter on Eugene Schroeder, who was killed at the intersection of Johnson and Morgan. According to press reports, in this case, he definitely had the right of way, and this truck just killed him and took off. And I know the cops are looking for him. Whoever was driving this truck, I haven't heard any follow-up reporting. Maybe if I'm sure you would have, those that reached out to me already would have sent me an update. But yeah, we just don't know where this driver is. So I will ask for one motion to write both letters, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, so
Eric, I'll make a motion, but I kind of want to ask if we could add a little color to the one about the Kent Avenue bike lane and request that there be some kind of consequence for whoever left a flatbed in the bike lane like that. I mean, clearly it's incredibly dangerous, and we're gonna get the letter back from the highway patrol that's like, we investigate it, someone left a flatbed, but I feel like there should be more to it than that.
Well, yes, I hear you. And I'm not.
Hey, Eric, it's Ryan. Can I add can I throw out a suggestion that the community board writes a letter to Two Trees asking them to explain?
Paul had sent that to me. I would do that, but we don't know specifically that they were servicing Two Trees. I mean, obviously they were probably servicing Two Trees.
We do know fake. So
I didn't see that in the reporting. Do you know that?
It's been reported, and Dave Umbino has confirmed. So I would say
all right.
Two Trees isn't saying it's not them. They're saying that mopeds aren't allowed in the bike lane, and it's an unfortunate accident but the death happened to a lawbreaker because he's on a moped. He's not supposed to be in the bike lane, but they're not saying that they weren't parked there at all. So I would say a letter is highly recommended.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. First of all, I understand, but it's
a letter. Two Trees will answer. Like it's a community board officially calling into question this. Two Trees will answer. They will spin it. They're not hiding from this. But I think as a transportation committee and as people who ride in that bike lane and care about safety, us not wanting to send a letter just saying, hey, you who presented, who've wooed us, who've come before our community board numerous times, every committee, will you answer us in letter or come in person what happened? I guarantee you they will. It's but we shouldn't be scared to ask them to be accountable for a death that happened on their doorstep.
Yes, I understand. My thing is, so okay, fine. If somebody wants to make that motion, I will entertain that motion.
I would like to make that motion.
Make that motion, Paul.
I want to make a motion that we write a letter about Eugene Schroeder, about the moped rider, and we send one to Two Trees. We don't have to explicitly blame them, but we can say.
Okay, wait. This has to be okay. So we can't. Okay, it can't. This can't all be one motion.
Okay.
Because it's three. Okay, so first let's do a motion on the fatality, the boilerplate fatality letter. I can't believe I have to say boilerplate, but that's what we live in. letter to all the highway patrol, DA, and let's see. They're both in the 9-0, right?
Yeah.
Right, South First, right? So that's the 9-0. Okay, and 9-0, sorry. 9-0 regarding Schroeder and Antonio Sycopan. Okay, second. Okay, so DOT to write a letter to Highway Patrol District Attorney's Office in the 90th Precinct regarding details on the incidents at South First and Kent and Morgan and Johnson. Second.
Vega. William Vega seconds.
Got you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you. Okay. Now, new motion. CB1. CB1 to draft letter to 2 trees management. And has it been right? No, let's not get into the weeds. Well, 2 trees management, and then they can answer for whoever their contractor is. 2 tree draft. Sorry, CB1 to draft a letter to 2 trees management. Explaining their tolerance of their contractors to illegally block legally designated bike lanes. CB1 to draft the letter to 2 trees management explaining their tolerance of their contractors to illegally block designated bike lanes with construction and other vehicles. Yes? I hear no complaints. So that's Paul. And is there a second? Oh, am I dropping out?
I'll second this one.
Okay, my earbuds are wigging out here. Okay, so second is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are they opposed? Abstains? Unanimous. Okay, great. Okay, so I'll draft those up. What I was going to say, Paul, when you were talking about this is, and the reason I hesitated was not because I didn't think that we should actually write this letter necessarily, but I want to know why the 9-0 and the 9-4 can't drive by in a squad car, see that bullshit, and then write them a ticket. Like every time they go around the block, every change of shift. Like, why? It's not hard. Like, the NYPD and everybody is looking for money for tickets all over the city. Like, this is a no-brainer. Are they, what is the problem? Like, this is happening. Noel Hidalgo is like posting threads about all the crap that's going on around the Navy Yard and over by what is it, Van Dam or whatever, like, or Kai or whatever the hell he posted it was about. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with the NYPD? And we should take this to Public Safety Committee. This is something that Ronan should take up because, look, we're transportation, right? We're like, make this nice open street, do this good thing here. We don't like your, like this presentation, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a public safety issue, you know, and I know it kind of like, you know, obviously we have oversight on this, but it's like, this is stuff that should be coming up when the NCOs appear before Ronan to answer questions from the public. This should be at Public Safety Committee, and I'll talk to Ronan about it. And I think he just published his agenda for the Public Safety Committee. But you know, this can be taken up in new business or whatever. And don't forget, we have community council meetings that happen every month for both the 9-4 and the 9-0 that is sponsored by them. It's on their website when they happen. So, you know, folks that are exercised about this should go torture them at those meetings because they can't get away. You know, they don't like to answer our calls for whatever reason, or it takes forever for them to get back to us. Well, I won't say that about Captain Fahey because she's a good egg. But I mean, you know, there's been a lot of times where particularly the 9-0 just never get back to us on things, and it's super frustrating. So this is a public safety thing, and there's a community council thing, and we should torture them there. So I'll get off my soapbox now because we are at 9:35 and I am over time. Is there any pressing new business, committee?
Well, Eric,
sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that, you know, I attended the Brooklyn CB2 Transportation Committee last week, and I was impressed that they start out by reviewing the crash mapper data from the previous month. It only takes about 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting just to sort of like assess, you know, what's been happening, what are the problem areas. They put together some charts and graphs that kind of just like remind everybody like why we're sitting through these 3-hour meetings to begin with. I think it's a good way just to kind of like, you know, get everyone on the same page at the beginning of the meeting, because it's sort of unfortunate that, you know, we're talking about these deaths at the very tail end when there's just a handful of people left and everybody's tired. So I don't know if I have a specific motion or I mean, I would suggest maybe we try that and see, you know, if we think it's a good practice. I'd be happy to work on putting something together, but just kind of wanted to throw that out there for reactions.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm like I said in my email, I'm sympathetic to this. Our time is always so tight, and I don't know. I don't know if starting the meeting with it is the best. I'm always happy to like make it part of the agenda as like once we've gone through the regular business and then we go into new and old business. Like so, it's part of the agenda, but not new old business. I don't know. Let me think about it, and you know, we can have a discussion on this over the next month via email and start a thread because it's internal for the committee. So let me think about it and we'll do it that way.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Okay. And then maybe if you want to do a mock-up, Paul, of like, you know, what you're actually talking about, and then like send it to me, and like, you know, I understand I think I understand what they're doing, but and I can like probably give the BKO2 committee chair a call and talk to him about it. But anyway, we'll think about it. Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's think about it. Maybe it's even just something that, I mean, if I have time, I could put it together and just email it to everybody before the meeting. We can just review it on our own or something before.
Sure, and then it'll be a standard part of the report.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give it some more thought.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Any other new business? We are 8 minutes over. Kevin, quickly, please. Go ahead, Kevin.
Eric, thank you, Eric. I just it's new business. I think it's, you know, it's connected to this stuff that we're talking about on Morgan. It's connected to all these conversations we're having about the Greenway on Commercial. It's connected to McGinnis Boulevard. You know, I mean, I feel your frustration, Eric, about you know, like what are the cops even doing most of the time, right? When it comes to this sort of stuff, right? You have on West Street and on Kent, you have dozens of vehicles, including literal, you know, like flatbeds parked in the bike lane that are so dangerous. You know, but I mean, this is the thing, like with Meeker, right? In 2 years, there's been 514 crashes on Meeker. You could not have enough police officers to enforce the dangerous driving that is happening on Meeker. You could not have enough police officers to enforce the dangerous conditions that are in place every single day in so many of these spaces. And it's one of the reasons why I appreciate this committee and the conversations that are happening and the advocacy in the neighborhood, because folks are saying that like these changes have to come through design. They have to come through the way that we design the spaces. A physical metal or stone bollard at the Kent bike lane, at the entrance and exit of each bike lane, which Manhattan bike lanes have, which many other cities' bike lanes have, would make it impossible for Two Trees to park anything in that bike lane, right? They would make it impossible, right? These turning signal things, the turning radiuses that we're talking about, what killed Eugene Schroeder, a vehicle making that turn and hitting and killing him, could have been solved or fixed by a protected separated lane on Morgan, by bulb outs that allowed for turning radiuses but slowed vehicles down so they can't take turns at 30 miles an hour. They've got to slow to 10 miles an hour. That's what we're talking about on Berry. Like like that's why a lot of us are here. And I think that like I feel the frustration. I'm feeling the frustration because it's like these are problems that we can solve by design. We're asking the committee to solve them by design. We're like, I could go yell at the police all day, but it's like ultimately DOT has to redesign these spaces in our streets, in our public realm to make them safer. They can. And that's what we're asking for. There's not enough cops in the world, right? We can get a rock and fix the problem in a lot of these spaces, a literal rock, not a police officer, and all the overtime and all that sort of stuff that comes with it. You can put a rock in a lot of these spaces and fix the problem. Some concrete.
Okay, I hear you.
I don't know. I just don't want that to go unsaid because it's like I think it's this narrative that we can like arrest our way or enforce our way out of this problem.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. I know that we have to design our way out of this, but I'm just saying that there's low hanging fruit, and I don't understand why they're not grabbing it. So well, why not? They want money. The city wants money. Like here's low hanging fruit. Here's a $125 ticket. Like just waiting to be picked off the violation tree. Like, come on, it's like no bread. Anyway, so we got to end it. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody. I wanted anybody from the public that's still here that spoke under a minute. I love you.
Transportation Committee.
Woo, for the win. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This was a great meeting. Appreciate you all. Thank you, Joanna, and we'll see you next month.
And we appreciate and Eric, we appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
all right,
Eric.
Thanks, everybody.
Great job, Eric.
Have a good night.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.